What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California and DC 420 LA is live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state. I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely. You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Terrorists keep terrorizing. Leaders keep a-lying. The haters keep a-hating. And the planet's dying. Uncle Sam, do what's proper. Call off your dogs and your helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers.
Yeah, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. We have an illustrious guest.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Well, Beauregard, I have to disagree with you. Good people do smoke marijuana, and we've got a whole bunch of them in the room today. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm Dave Conan, and this is indeed DC 420, The Week in Weed. DC 420 LA, The Week in Weed, to alleviate some of that confusion with a group in Washington. DC 420 LA. Welcome, everybody. This is The Week in Weed, the show where we spark up and talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures here on DC 420 LA, on YouTube, on, I got to bring my co-host in because the other half of DC is, of course, Chella.
Hello.
Chella.
Hi.
There she is. The C in DC, one of the C's in DC, my main C in DC, and my co-host in life and in cannabis, and here on DC 420 LA, The Week in Weed. We do this every Sunday at 420 Pacific, here on YouTube, and so many other places, Chella. Amazing big announcement today. We're going out over Weed TV. Welcome, Weed TV.
Hey, everybody.
On their main page, going out live, and also we're going out over D Live through Steam It. So we're going out all of these great, and of course we're going over Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, a couple other social platforms, and our main channel for the meantime, as long as it lasts, on YouTube. Who knows in this day and age with this conversation. And that's our illustrious guest getting ready in the green room, folks. This is a big show. Not only are you going out over all of these great platforms, Chella, but we have our very first guest really on this show. And it is actually a candidate for U.S. Senate here in California.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's big, right?
Huge.
And it's big. So we're actually gonna get. Normally, you know what? I think we need to spark up. I'm very excited. Let's fire up a joint.
Well, let's talk about what we're using at least.
Because this is we're of course getting our stuff from ITSG today because we were so busy we didn't have a chance to go out and go to a new dispensary.
Well, we've been busy because I've been particularly focused on my mom's care, and so we've been spending extra amount of time at ITSG this week because they've been helping me with that.
Right, we've been getting some FICO and some oil
FICO and some THCA. Right. So I'll be talking about that later.
Yeah, usually we talk about where we weed and what we weed at the beginning of the show. We are going to light up a little Girl Scout cookie while I introduce our next guest. Our first guest, this is amazing.
Our guest.
I really wasn't. We've been into politics, progressive politics for a while, and we just sort of gave it up. To be honest, after everything that happened,
beat it out of us.
They did.
Beat it out of us.
They beat us out of us. We've been Democrats twice in our lives. Otherwise, we've been independents.
It was painful.
And it was painful. And I of course watch our good friend Ron Placone. And he had this. He's been talking to progressive candidates here in California, and I watch his show. And he had this great candidate on by the name of Pat Harris. And I asked a cannabis question, and it turns out he actually is using cannabis as one of his top issues on his platform here in California, challenging Dianne Feinstein.
Who's totally anti-cannabis.
who is literally the last prohibitionist
super prohibitionist
in California.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even the party is on board cannabis. The Democratic Party platform came out last weekend, and they endorsed cannabis, and they didn't endorse a candidate. But this next, our guest did get some of those delegate votes. So let me just do a quick introduction here. We are joined by Pat Harris. He's a progressive Democrat. He's running for U.S. Senate in California's June primary for, of course, the seat that's been held for 5 terms by corporate Democrat and, as I said, the last prohibitionist when it comes to cannabis, Dianne Feinstein. And he's basically started out his campaign last year essentially self-funded with a second mortgage on his house. And now he's totally non-corporate. He's not getting any money from any corporations.
That's good.
Which
I
immediately,
like that.
That's the new trend.
We like that.
We like that. And
not everybody's doing that.
Not everybody's doing that. That's absolutely right. And there are some people in this race that are doing that. And there are people across the country that have promised to do that in national races. So it's good to see. So he got in the race. Now he's getting money in from all individual contributions. $90 average donation. We're going to look forward to seeing his FEC filing, which for this first quarter. But that's basically what they're saying at the campaign. So that's good news. He's, of course, all the progressive issues. Pat is on board. You can go to his website. Of course, is Pat Harris or PatHarrisForSenate.com, and all of the progressive issues are there. Universal health care, college. Living wage, criminal justice reform. He grew up in Arkansas, in a working class family, and got out of college, a law degree, became a public defender, and has worked as a public defender and a civil rights attorney for 23 years now in California. He did end up taking on some very high profile cases that, a few people maybe not would have taken. And that's, of course, part of what we're all about here in America. So, some noble stuff going on, and we'll get into that. And I just want to, of course, Pat lives in Studio City with his wonderful wife, Carol.
Pretty close.
A world-class jazz singer. We actually lived in Studio City at one point in our lives. So that's pretty cool. I think I would like to welcome Pat Harris to the show. Pat.
Hi, Pat Harris.
Can you hear us? And are you demuted? Are you unmuted? Oh, wait, I can't. Oh, wait, he hasn't been able to hear me. I unmuted myself. He hasn't been hearing me. Pat, I just did an amazing introduction for you.
Oh.
And you missed the whole thing. And you missed the whole thing because I had you muted. But that's okay. Or I had me muted to you. But welcome to the show, Pat. You can hear that all those allocates earlier. I gave a rundown of who you are and what you're all about. But welcome to DC 420, the Week in We. Pat Harris, Democrat in California.
I appreciate that. I probably didn't need to hear it anyway. My ego's big enough as it is.
Well, we talked about how you are all, you're on board all of the progressive issues, right?
Right. Medicare for all and renewable energy and all the good stuff. All the good stuff. But really why you're here today is so that we can focus on cannabis.
That's essentially, we talked to, that's really the topic that came up when you were on Ron Placone. That was of interest to me because, of course, kind of the show we do. So I asked that question about cannabis and your position, and it was really exciting to hear that you have basically made cannabis and the legalization of cannabis a very important issue in your campaign. And you know a lot about what's going on in California. So I want to talk about what you found in California with regards to cannabis and the business of cannabis. But Pat, tell us a little bit about yourself how you got hooked on cannabis, for lack of a better word. What brought you to the cannabis space for medicinal reasons? I mean, what was your journey to cannabis, and why is it a big issue for you in this campaign?
Well, it is a big issue for me, and I tell you, partly because I guess as a progressive, I was always somebody who felt like the legalization of cannabis was a foregone conclusion. It was something we needed to do. But it wasn't something that was really personal to me. I've never been a big fan of smoke, and so I didn't smoke a lot of joints when I was in college or growing. So it just wasn't on my radar a whole lot. Like I said, I've always supported it because I think it's ridiculous that we're outlawing a plant to begin with. But it got very personal with me about 3 years ago. My best friend, the woman who actually introduced me to my wife, a woman named Mia. Mia contracted cancer, and for about a year, we did everything we could in terms of experimental drugs, taking her around. I would go over and I'd sit with her. She couldn't get out of bed. We'd just sit and watch television because she couldn't. She was very uncomfortable. It just was a very bad situation. About a month before her death, the doctors essentially said, "We can't do anything else for you, but what we can do is prescribe medical cannabis." And so she started taking the cannabis, and it was an amazing transformation. In the last month of her life, I went over, I picked her up one day, I'll never forget. Now, this was a woman who couldn't get out of bed. And for the entire day, we drove, she lived in Las Vegas. We drove around. She wanted to go see the gardens at the Bellagio Hotel. She wanted to go to Red Rock Canyon. We went to a movie. We spent a good 8 to 10 hours out. We went to the grocery store and just had a tremendous day. And, 1 week later, she died. But it was an amazing thing because for that month, that 1 month, it changed her entire life. Medical cannabis allowed her to actually have some semblance of a life before she died. That started me researching. It started me interested in the issue. And at that point, I took it more as a medical issue. My background, I don't know if you mentioned in the introduction, my background is a criminal defense and civil rights attorney. So I was very familiar with cannabis in the criminal justice system. That was something I was, this. I went to law school in Michigan, and when I graduated, I did have opportunities to go work for corporate law firms. But what I had grown up with, my mother was very much a believer that you have to give a voice to those who are less fortunate. That's how we were raised. So I decided not to go the corporate route, and I went to work. It was Nashville, Tennessee, actually, where I went to work in the public defender's office. What I saw there was the stories you've heard a million times, guys. The same type of stories. I was representing mostly minorities with no money, and invariably, what you would have. I don't think I was in the job more than a week when I had a client who was actually he was a cook at a Mexican restaurant. He was an African American gentleman. He left work, went outside his car, lit up a joint, got arrested in the parking lot, gave him a $10,000 bail, which the judge would not reduce. He sat in jail, and in Tennessee, there's no such thing as specific dates when you have to go to trial. So he sat in jail for about 6 months. He lost his job, obviously. He lost his apartment. And this was a guy who had a decent paying job and a decent life. He had a girlfriend. Wow. She took their kid and left. He lost everything over a joint. And that to me was so beyond ridiculous. But I wish I could say, wow, that was a real aberration. That was something that was unusual. That was a normal story, guys. That was something I'd see 2 or 3 times a week, that kind of story. And, so in the sense of the criminal justice system, I saw very early on how ridiculous this was.
We're really seeing that. Whoa. Getting a little feedback. I don't know if it's maybe is your speaker on, Pat? Maybe it's getting a little feedback, but and I think our mic was off before. But folks, yes, I mean, of course, and this is the same thing that's going on now, Pat. I mean, it hasn't really changed much with the level of who's getting arrested for this, and obviously we see that usage of the plant is similar across demographics, but you see people of color being hurt from it, from the get-go of the drug war. And even today, we're still seeing the disparity. There was an article this week in New York about how the 85% of the arrests, I think, in New York for marijuana are people of color. So, it's, and
Not
there's an
that at all.
investigation.
I don't doubt that at all. I can tell you that as a public defender, it was, there were pot parties going on in Belmead, which is the rich part of Nashville. Young white men and women, they never got busted. No one ever bothered them at all. They would
No.
do pretty much what they want. If a police officer pulls someone over, a young white male or female, and found them with a joint, they were going to say, put that out and go home.
Right.
It just didn't work that way.
Yeah.
That in fact, I guess H.R. Haldeman pretty much spilled the beans about the Nixon administration, who blatantly said we essentially started cracking down on pot because it was the young black men and the hippies who we wanted off the streets.
Yeah.
And that's why we begin with, and the legacy has lived on.
Right. Right.
So you're on board with the Marijuana Justice Act that's been introduced in both the House and the Senate. So if you were elected, we could count on you supporting those, or some. I mean, now Bernie Sanders hasn't really. Nobody's really co-sponsored. There's a lot of talk about this, Pat, this year, because it's a very hot topic, and there's a lot of Democrats that are getting on board cannabis for not necessarily a lot of corporate Democrats. You have Cory Booker, you have Kamala Harris, and you have a lot of these progressives that are connected with your corporate people that are on board cannabis now because it's a political issue. So just to sort of delve into that, it's not in your stump speech that I can find. Is it in your stump speech? I mean,
definitely my stump speech.
Is it in your stump? Okay, so I guess I haven't. I was looking through some of the videos on your website, so I've been trying to find. I watched.
I can send you. Sometimes what happens is, depending on the group I speak to, sometimes they limit the amount of time you can speak.
Right.
And if it's a shortened version, then I don't
hit the majors. Well, talk about some of the places that you're going to as a progressive in California to sort of why are you taking you're championing cannabis. Cello wants to know why there's no cannabis leaf on your bus. So I'll throw that out there.
Do something
right
on the bus, something visual. Own it. I mean, this is the year.
You need to come on the bus because we actually have a garden now on the bus, a little garden on there, and there's a cannabis plant in the garden.
Nice.
So
But yeah,
there you
get some visual stuff on the bus, because I do think this is the year for cannabis, and not to shy away from it.
Absolutely.
Really be proud, be bold about it. It is legal. I wear cannabis gear all over the place, and
What's your camera?
I don't know. Some friends are like, why do you do that? Why do you why do you put it in people's faces like that? Because I think it's important to normalize the idea that regular folks use cannabis. I use cannabis medicinally for many, many years. I used it recreationally in college. My parents actually introduced it to me when I was in college. But lots of people use cannabis, and I think that it's important to let it shine. Let it out. Come out of the cannabis closet.
I mean, I think you hit the right word for the introduction of cannabis nationwide. You hit the word normalcy. Normalizing it. I think that's the biggest single issue we still face, because even with progressives, and I have to admit myself, even like I said a few years ago, the issue or the vision of still a huge part of the public. If you're over 60, your vision is still Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
You still remember the movie. If you're under 60 or whatever, you still probably think of cannabis as being two guys in the basement of their parents' home smoking a joint.
Right.
And that's the image that people immediately get when they talk of cannabis. Further from the truth. And not only do normal people engage in eating or smoking or whatever with cannabis, not only is it normal people, but you're talking about a population that needs it. I mean, we have a plant here that has the ability to actually do so much good for so many people.
So many.
And yet we're criminalizing it, and it's when you learn about it and you put it in that context, that here we have something that is a plant. I mean, let's say tomorrow, let's say we decide vitamin C. We're going to criminalize vitamin C. So now you can't, whatever. That's how silly this is. We have a plant that actually provides good for people and does amazing things, and yet we are trying to make it as if it shouldn't be a normal part of our daily lives, and it should be. Because, and I believe, and I honestly believe this, in 20, 25 years, cannabis is going to be very similar to aspirin or Advil or anything that we take today.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
For sure. It is already in Israel, in 27 nursing homes in Israel. Everybody's getting it.
Yes, absolutely.
My mom, who has dementia, she's in the end stages of Alzheimer's disease. It's the only medicine that actually benefits her, and it's illegal for her to have it because she's in a nursing home that gets federal funds. So to me, the most important thing is to get it off the Schedule 1 of drugs. And I want to know, what do you think is the best way to get our elected officials on board with getting it off the Schedule 1 of drugs so that people in nursing homes can get it?
Well, I think the problem you've got with elected officials right now, and I know we haven't gotten into this yet, but the problem you're going to see with elected officials as cannabis becomes more and more mainstream, you know where it's going. It's going with the drug companies. You're going to see people get involved. You're going to see them start trying to actually monopolize the industry. It's already starting. And you're going to see them start trying it, and then into candidates campaigns, and basically they're going to turn it into, or try to turn it into, pretty much what they've turned every form drug into in this country.
Well, is there a way to avoid that? I mean, I know
Yes.
you're a really big proponent of this green rush, and there's a lot of negative side effects to what's going on in Denver. We're seeing actually, housing prices are not going down. They're getting a lot of people coming to Colorado because of the legal cannabis industry. They don't have enough housing. We're probably going to see that here in California a lot,
Where we already don't have enough housing.
right? And then, of course, now taxation. One of the issues with taxation, Berkeley is lowering its city tax because it sees people being driven to the black market. Whereas California, it sounds like, is looking to add another 15% excise tax on it.
It's so ridiculous, and that's got to be the first thing we deal with, guys. I mean, we've got to deal with this issue of taxation, because what's happening is we're driving out small business. We're driving out people who should be profiting from this, because we're making the same mistake. But Washington State corrected it. Has, to a certain degree, at least, not totally, but to a certain degree, they've corrected it, because they realized very early on, they started off with these high tax rates,
right?
And the result was they were driving these people underground or out of business.
Yeah.
Same thing in California. We're repeating the same mistake because we're getting greedy. We're seeing this tax dollars, we're seeing the possibilities, and we're getting greedy on it, and we're going to kill the golden goose here because we are absolutely too greedy about it.
Yeah.
This is the number one issue, I believe, going forward in terms of what we have to deal with the cannabis industry. We have to get the taxes back in line, because we cannot drive small business out of this. We cannot allow the growers who've been in this all their lives to suddenly either go underground or go bankrupt. It's not right. It's not morally right. It's not economically smart. And what we're going to end up with is Pfizer running the cannabis industry, and you know what the result of that's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is it's heading there. I mean, this is with this transition from a completely black market to something that's legal in these states, but illegal federally still. And still, I mean, even locally, like San Bernardino, the sheriffs hate this stuff. And I want you to talk a little bit about Adelanto. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you have a story about how you talked to some folks. Now they've got their problems too.
Oh yeah, the gangster
with a
gangster
little bribery charges at the mayor pro tem. So. And there's been other issues across this space with people, greasing their palm a little bit, and the feds like to go in there and set people up for all kinds of things, and this is some of the stuff that they're doing. But if you read some of the press that's coming out of this little city, this little town of Adelanto, they are looking pretty good as far as their budget goes, and they are attributing it all to this cannabis industry that is got them out of a hole. And is now pulling their deficit back because of a prepayment plan that they did with the cannabis industry there. And they're basically saying that the cannabis industry is what's digging them out of the hole without really saying it. So go talk about your experience with that little town And what you saw out there is the Silicon Valley of cannabis, which, quite frankly, is scary. Silicon Valley is, their home housing is
run
ridiculous in Silicon Valley. But talk about your experience with a little town. I mean, look, and Mike Tyson. What is it? Nipton? You ever been to Nipton yet? That's going to be a complete cannabis town. Talk about your experience in the green business here in California.
Well, I got to tell you, Adelanto is unique of anywhere in California. They decided very early on that cannabis had the potential to be an economic boom. This was a very, very poor town out in San Bernardino County. They'd always run in deficits. They'd always had problems. They had, you could hear some of the stories about the things they had to do just to be able to keep the city running. The mayor came in. He's an ex-Vietnam vet. Very interesting guy. The guy you would think would be sort of a Republican, tough on crime, that kind of guy. He recognized very early on that the potential with cannabis was enormous. He, as you said, he kind of started the slogan, we're going to become the Silicon Valley of weed. And he backed it up. And he put together a coalition of some real estate developers to build an industrial park where they are selling to processing plants for cannabis. At very, some of these rates are pretty high that these cannabis producers are paying, but very low. The thing he's done is he has kept the city taxes, he's cut them almost in the 2/3 of what most cities are charging. So it becomes very attractive to the cannabis industry.
That's fascinating. They basically they've jumped on board to lower the taxes.
Yes,
also
absolutely.
to attract more business, and the side effect being that it's helping people. I don't know. I don't think they dispense. Did they dispense out there, or they just grow?
No, they dispense.
They do. So
they have 4 dispensaries.
in about a square mile, right?
That's about in a square mile. That's about right. Yeah.
Well, the whole town of Nipton is going to be a destination, and then that's fascinating that they lowered the taxes to draw them in. They gave them that early tax payment option, which apparently enough people took the opportunity and dug themselves out of a hole. As far as the budget goes, within the last year, they had been seeing, I guess, real problems with their budget for since 2009. They were in a hole. So
they were running in the red for years, and now they're running in the black for the first time in a decade.
Well,
they give it to the cannabis industry. I mean, they
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I think you're going to see some of these towns that are rejecting it. They're going to see this money coming in. Hopefully, the towns will realize that being greedy is not the way to go, and that there's going to be enough for everybody. If you want to have both the benefit of the taxes as well as the benefit of lowering, the draw to the black market, because the black market doesn't seem to be stopping. You're hearing you're hearing the news every week about these giant busts. There's just one in a Denver suburb, 1,400 plants in a house. You hear it all the time out of Colorado. We have problems in our national forests up in Northern California with illegal grows. And it's not just cartel. It's a lot of some of these guys in Oregon lost their license because they're moving stuff to other states. So I think the taxation, I that's good to hear, and hopefully the towns that do get on board will get it together. Los Angeles, I think it's 2.5%, and I hope California doesn't do what they're rumoring to be doing and adding another excise tax on top of this.
Yeah, they're talking
because
about
we're already
more.
going 40 to 60%, depending on what community you're in. That's what they did to tobacco. So I get it. I understand the draw, but they also stopped the illegal tobacco trade.
Well, tobacco didn't have the small growers, and for very few of them, tobacco was always a large corporate industry, and so they could afford it. There's too many small businesses in the cannabis industry. They're going to get driven out. If we don't do something absolutely, and we need to do it soon, because we're going to end up losing a lot of these people, these growers, producers. We're going to end up losing a lot of them if we don't do something fast. And it's not going to be what we want. It's going to be the opposite of what California expected.
Yeah.
Well, we got
Well.
to be honest. To be honest, we weren't supporters of Prop 64.
We didn't vote for Prop 64
We
because we,
knew it
were
was
worried
coming.
that the small producers would get screwed.
It's funny you say that. I wondered about that. I wondered if a lot of people in the industry actually opposed it. That's interesting to hear you say that.
Oh yeah.
Our two grower friends totally opposed it.
Yeah, Prop 64
Yeah.
was a giant corporate cannabis takeover.
Yeah.
And it's, hopefully we'll be able to get all these proposed rules, because everything's temporary. These are all temporary rules as it gets worked out. And one state after the next, sort of they look at the other state and then they adjust their rules. And I mean, tracking is a mess in some of these other states. Colorado seems to have it down, but I mean, we don't even have a tracking system at this point. It's all ledgers and by hand and the
a notebook.
honest engine right now, because there is no tracking system in place, and they wanted to go live and they wanted to get up because we got legal weed in California.
They
we want to get this going.
Yeah.
So but it's great. I think it's here now. Our big issue with Prop 64 is the patients getting swept up in this, or rather, or being
the medical
ignored,
patients
being run
getting
over in
screwed.
this. Prop 64 promised that the patients would be taken care of, and they've been now in the subsequent Marcosa monster that they created. It's an issue, and it costs $100 to get your state ID, so you don't have to pay that extra tax. I guess if you have cancer, that's okay, but access is an issue as well. So how do we balance the medical versus the recreational end to make sure that patients don't get left behind in this? What are your ideas on that?
No, and you're right. I mean, we need to change the law immediately in terms of we've got to amend it, because what we're dealing with right now is we've got these compassionate caregivers who, for years, I mean, since Prop 215, really, I mean, really back since the 1990s, who have gone in and just done, I mean, amazing work, providing cannabis to patients, providing cannabis to people who are having serious medical issues for free. And now, because of the way the Prop 64 is set up and the way the law is set up, essentially they have to now pay taxes on they were getting the marijuana, they were getting it free from a lot of growers, mostly up in Humboldt and those areas around there. They were free, and so they were able to provide it to the AIDS patients, those type of people. And what you're seeing now is both parties are having to pay taxes on what is essentially a freebie, and they aren't making any money off of this. So now, what are they in? They're forced to go out of business. So you're talking about huge numbers. I mean, I know, I think 2 months ago, it seemed like I'd read there was up to 12. This was right at the beginning of when it was legalized. Already 12 businesses, 12 of these nonprofits just shut the doors. Said, we can't go forward. We're not going to be able to do this.
Can't compete.
So we're talking about medical patients who rely years of their lives, and they're out of luck. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. We have to go in and amend that law. We have to be able to make it clear that these compassionate caregivers are not taxed, period. That ought to be something that is done within the next 30 days, because this is driving people away from literally saving lives and helping people.
That
ought to be first.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. It's some type of you are getting away from one tax if you pay that fee, but you still got the growing end, they're taxed. So that's basically, you can't grow it. You literally cannot grow it for free because you're going to get taxed on whatever comes out of your ground. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, to amend that, I think, is a great idea. And of course, this is a fluid situation here in California. I think it's there's a 90-day window or a 145-day window. I'm not sure what the window is where it has to be finalized. And they continue to do, public commentary, training sessions on track and trace. So I'm hoping that, I agree with you. I think that's something that needs to be amended here in California. The Weed for Warriors project is somebody that I follow that gets cannabis to veterans and has been, and they've been on top of keeping an eye on how this act has, this law in California has basically now taxed the patients out. And these collectives, I've been a member of a collective for a number of years, and he literally, there's no storefront. It's all they do is work with patients.
Yeah.
And they're like a formulating pharmacy and find the right mix and the right compounds and the right type pharmacy, of cannabinoids for what's going on. Because he saw that, that there was he admits that here in California, okay, it was a way to get legal pot. All right. But people needed it. Real people needed it. And so it filled both needs. We had decriminalized it in California. It was a fine for under an ounce. Patients had the collective system, which they were able to get their medicine without any problems, free or otherwise. Prop 64 is supposed to make it still free, that you can give an adult can give another adult an ounce of weed, right? So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get these patients and getting bulldozed over by this recreational movement was what we were all afraid of when Prop 64 was happening, and you're seeing it in New York too. You're seeing it in these other states, in New Jersey and these other states that have medical marijuana that are looking at recreational, and they're very worried that their patients are going to lose access. So maybe it's some final thoughts on making sure patients get the medicine they need.
I think the biggest issue is, again, it's awareness. I think that when people hear what's going on, especially if they hear a specific situation, if you hear a story about somebody who, for example, has suffered from AIDS and has had a nonprofit to come in and cannabis over the years, and it's helped them dramatically, it's helped them deal with the issues that they're taking with the cocktails. You hear the stories, specific ones. Even the most hard-hearted conservative looks at it and says, well, that needs to be something that should be provided. But we don't have an awareness. We don't have politicians talking about it because politicians basically don't see money in terms of, right now the drug companies aren't dealing with it. So, and I don't really want to take a lot of them say, I don't really want to take money from the cannabis community. Pfizer hasn't gotten into it yet. I'll take money from Pfizer, but they aren't into it yet. So a lot of these politicians don't see for them a reason to make it an issue.
The only time it does, and it's 201, I have to say, if you look a little deeper into these conservatives, it's a very libertarian thing to be on board, freedom of cannabis, or cannabis use. But every one of these guys have somebody connected, where it's a medical benefit. Now, we just had a lawsuit in New York that was dismissed. It was challenging cannabis under Schedule 1 as unconstitutional. There were a number of plaintiffs. I don't know if you're familiar with the case, but the judge dismissed it and said we need administrative and congressional action before taking judicial action. I was hopeful that we could come at it through the judiciary, and they're gonna appeal, of course. So, do you think that with these conservatives, we can find common ground with these guys on this, where we can take care of the banking issue, where we can take care of leaving states alone and getting Jeff Sessions off our back? What is is it an incremental strategy? Taking care of banking first. I know you want to be a rabble rouser, and we're all for that. We're all for that. But can you reach across the aisle on some of these issues with regards to cannabis?
This is the problem.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, I don't think it's reaching across the aisle. I think you're going to find a lot of Republicans who are, as you said, libertarians. You have somebody like Dana Rohrabacher, who is one of the most Republican conservative congressmen from California, who is a large supporter of cannabis, the cannabis industry.
True story.
I think the real problem is in the Democratic Party.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'm running against Dianne Feinstein, who was quoted after it was passed as saying she's still against it because it's a gateway drug.
Right.
And we're still hearing that silliness from a Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay? And she's not the only Democrat. other opponent that I'm running against as well, same thing. He's seen it in his Hispanic communities as a gateway drug.
Now, I've understood he's on board legalization, though. He's supporting.
He
the
was
law
a
of the
latecomer.
state, right?
He was a latecomer to legalization.
He's jumping on board the cannabis.
He's only because it passed as Prop 64. He was really late to the party on cannabis. It's not like he's a big proponent. Doesn't sound like he's had any personal stories.
Right.
He only, I think, is doing it for political reasons. I'm glad to know that it's in your stump speech. Really, really embrace it. Put it on the bus somewhere.
Like put at least a bumper sticker on the bus.
Something visual.
So let me ask you this: where some of the folks are asking.
Tell you guys, whenever I mention stump speech, whenever I bring up cannabis, it's one of the biggest applause lines I get.
I'm telling you, 2018 is about cannabis.
Even in those conservative areas, because you're going to some place and like when your strategy is very interesting, and you've been obviously successful because you ended up on that ballot.
How'd you get on that ballot?
At the convention.
How'd you do that?
So now, what'd you do? I'm sorry.
I actually qualified. They were going to keep me off of it. They didn't want me up there rabble rousing, and they decided to keep me off of it. And I said, well, I qualify for the ballot. I met your criteria. You can either change the decision, or I'll see you in the courthouse on Thursday morning.
What was the criteria? What was the criteria? Just I don't know. What was it? Just out of curiosity.
They had a number of criteria, but one of them was you have to raise at least $250,000, and I have raised over that.
Right.
And that was the main criteria you have to meet, and I met it. So they basically tried to keep me off anyway, and like I said, I just told them.
But everybody had the opportunity to get on that ballot as long as they met whatever criteria they needed to meet.
There are other criteria as well you can get on the ballot for, yes.
Right. So
I do believe that
you did the work to do whatever it took.
Yeah, and I got to say that the Democratic establishment, the party establishment, is 10 steps behind the actual Democratic progressive movement.
Oh yeah.
They don't want to hear about cannabis. They're not interested in their candidates being out front on it. They don't even talk about it on their platforms much, and they try to kind of downplay it. And they allow candidates like Dianne Feinstein to come out against it, even though we legalized it. It's the Democratic Party is out of the establishment is so far out of step with its members. It's ridiculous.
Well, I saw Max did a video from the convention, and I watched it. It's very, very illuminating. Got a lot of good information. But it looks like you were there. I mean, you were the only non-corporate progressive on that ballot.
Yes.
You got 149 delegates. Essentially support 5%, which it may or may at this raw numbers it looks like it wouldn't have pushed anybody over the edge.
No, but it's amazing that you got 5%.
Yeah, but that you got. I mean, obviously there's some type of a progressive. I mean, you guys did enough work at that convention to get those votes. Yeah. So that's and why are you going to Central California as opposed to the cities where everybody else is going?
Excuse me. I go to Central. I go to North Country. I go all the way from Humboldt, all the way down through Shasta and Butte County, down Sacramento, down the Central Valley, Modesto, Bakersfield, Fresno, and then down to the deserts. And the reason I do that is because those are the people who they don't have a voice, and they'll tell you repeatedly, no one comes talks to them, no one listens to them,
and they vote.
Oh, and they vote.
Yeah, they vote. They totally vote.
They hear over and over and over. Well, why should we come out there? There's no money out there. There's no, we can't raise money out in Butte County. Or we can't raise money out in Modesto. So they don't see candidates, and they're frustrated. They're really angry. And the Democratic Party needs to understand that group. If you go down North Country, down the Central Valley, down in the desert, that was almost overwhelmingly Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary. And there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because people out there are ready for something different and a new voice, and they're sick to death of the establishment of the Democratic Party.
Why are you running as a Democrat and not an independent?
I'm sorry. I've had a little bit of the flu the last few days. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
It's a killer. Watch out.
Yeah, why are you stop that? Why are you running as a Democrat and not an independent?
In order to run, you actually have to raise even more money. It's a difficult thing in this state, with a state this large, to raise money to do a full campaign. But if you run as an independent, you now have an additional problem. When somebody sees independent and you're not advertising, they don't know what that means. They don't know if it means you're an independent and that you're really a Nazi, or if you're progressive. It just says independent. So they don't know. And you have to have even more money to get your message out. And it's difficult enough in this state to run as a Democrat and raise the money. And as an independent, it would almost be 2 to 3 times that.
I mean, because there's a lot of people that are super scarred by the Democratic Party.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to tell you, that I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I was a very strong Democrat.
Did you vote for Bernie? Did you vote for Bernie in the primary?
Oh, yeah.
Just checking. I don't think I heard you on the record of that, but I know Max was a Bernie-crat, but I haven't. You did.
Back
you
in the 1990s, I used to watch Bernie on that old. You remember that old Bill Maher Politically Incorrect show? He was Bernie was on that. I liked him even back then.
Yeah.
But I do believe that, as somebody who grew up in a Democratic Party that was actually progressive and actually accomplished things, and more than anything, a party that tried things. I mean, the Democratic Party, my God, in the 40s and the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, we tried things. If they didn't work, okay, but at least we tried them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every time the Democratic Party basically says, oh, we can't do that. It's too expensive. We'll lose votes. It's a problem. We have become the most negative party of not being able to do anything of any party I've ever seen, and I'm sick of it.
You can't have Medicare for all.
No, you can't do that.
You can't have free public college.
No, of course not.
You can't have cannabis as medicine.
So I'm assuming you wouldn't be rubber stamping just $800 billion increases to the Pentagon budget.
Oh yeah, let's talk about war.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest parts of my platform is to cutting back on the Defense Department. And the amazing story, I tell a story in my stump speech, but in morning in the LA Times. Do you know that they are now at the Defense Department? They have so much money, they're not sure how they're going to be able to spend it all now. There's a whole article about they're desperately trying to figure out ways to, or else next year they won't get the same amount. They can't even spend it all. That's how crazy.
Cannabis.
Hey, maybe they could. Here's an idea. Maybe they could start like a secret black ops program to give everybody in the country Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
or
nice.
Housing.
Just like
housing.
Backdoor spend whatever $20 billion it would take to do it, or college.
Yeah.
Maybe a black ops college
or
program.
housing, a black op home program.
Put it in that way. That way they can spend it.
Wow.
National security to me is more about the well-being of your people. Making sure your people do have health care, making sure your people actually have access to great medical technology, science. Those are the things that are real national security issues. But all we do is throw it, another $50 billion at a bomber against a Defense Department that can't even use it in wars that we don't even want to fight.
I find it hard to believe that the Pentagon is having trouble spending money. But I guess what was that Brewster's Millions? It's like you had to spend so much in a year or you lose it all.
That's right. That's right.
Well, at least they're doing audits now, right? Are they doing audits of the Pentagon now? Because they weren't doing them for a long time.
That's another interesting story, Dave. No one can audit the Defense Department. The Defense Department can only audit themselves. So in 2016, December 2016, it leaked. There was a whistleblower who leaked an audit the Defense Department had done, which showed, in fact, they had spent $125 billion over 5 years in administrative waste. They had wasted $125 billion, not on wars, not on weapons, but on actually administrative waste. $25 billion a year on waste in copy paper and pencils. And it is stunning, the actual I got to say it. It's just thievery what the Defense Department does in this country. It is.
How are you going to get along in Washington? You're so weird.
I don't want to get along. I tell people the funny thing is as much as I dislike Ted Cruz and everything he stands for, at least I understand where he's coming from because he just pisses people off.
Yeah, he's weird
And
too.
that's,
Well, you know,
but he gets things done.
They were able to do,
Right.
I think, you know, that's one of the lessons that Democrats don't seem to take, is they were able to do a lot to stop things and get their agenda, you know, which is basically destroying what anything government can do. But you know, they were able to do that with a very small contingent of people that got elected. You know, so if we can get a strong rabble rouser voice elected into Congress, you know, we might be able to throw the brakes on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, even in this very crazy age. So, you know, here's something, you know, we didn't, you know, you don't really, do you talk about Trump much? I don't think you really do you? You really are talking about more about your issues, right? I mean, because the Democrats, I mean, every time Nancy Pelosi comes on camera, she's got an anti-Trump thing behind her, and it's like their only issue. They don't want to talk, but they're all corporate. They don't want to talk about any of these progressive things because they're all corporate.
That's it.
Because they're all corporate, so they won't talk about that. So, okay, I get it. But it's not going to be a winning strategy. He's going to win again. He's going to win again if they keep this nonsense up. And so you don't really talk about that in Trump country, because you're in Trump country.
Yeah.
Right?
I am to a certain degree, but even that's not the reason I don't talk about Trump. I don't talk about Trump because, as you said, it's a losing strategy. We keep going back and forth to this, you know, Trump's terrible. Well, we figured that out about the second or maybe the day he announced he was running.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that.
Down the escalator.
Yeah.
Now let's move forward with an actual plan that we're going to present to the public with Medicare for all, with free college. Let's talk about things that we're actually going to do versus, well, we hate Trump. We're the I hate Trump party.
Yeah.
Well, that's not getting us anywhere. It's not going to. We've lost it once already, amazingly, and as you said, we're going to lose again if we keep doing it.
Right. Right.
I just don't focus on him. I'm not interested in focusing on him. I'm interested in focusing on what we're going to do to make this a better country.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the chat there, Chella, coming through that you see?
Well, it's the general sentiment is, you know, a very anti-democratic party situation, because once you become a Democrat, you become beholden to corporate interests. So let's play it through. Let's just say, hey, let's say you get in the top two and you're in the general against Feinstein, and let's say, hey, you win. How are you gonna maintain your progressive ideals when you have to take corporate money basically to stay alive?
As I tell people, I've made the pledge and I will keep the pledge, and you'll be able to see it every 3 months with the FEC filing. I will not raise one penny while I'm in office. I've been on the Hill. I've worked there for about 2.5 years. I saw what politicians do with their days. Virtually every congressman there spends at least anywhere from 40 to 60% of their day raising money. I won't do that. If it comes down to it, I don't raise any money. Over 6 years, I don't mind going to the public and saying, look, you know, here's what I've done. Here's what I've stood for. Here's what I believe in. Vote for me or don't vote for me based on what I believe in. But I'm not going to raise any money while I'm in office. That's going to be it, period. Zero. You will see every 3 months a big zero by my name, because that is why they sell out. Every single time they start compromising, it starts with a little compromise. Well, we'll take money because this is a good organization. This is a nice corporate organization. They're good guys. So I'll take that $5,000 from them, and then it becomes easier and easier. And pretty soon you're taking, you know, the $5,000 from Pfizer and from Wells Fargo and from defense firms. The best thing to do is just to state right off the bat, there's no reason to raise money. Serve the people. It's 6 years, for God's sake. If you can't accomplish in 6 years, if you can't do something in that period of time, you don't need to be running for office anyway.
You get a decent
So
salary.
you're gonna do it one term, huh? I love it.
No, I think, you know, and you're quite honestly, that's right. They're looking for re-election, but if you stick to those ideals, you're going to get plenty of individual donations to keep it going without trying. I mean, you're not going to have to go to lunches with lobbyists because the people are going to support you.
Yeah.
To keep it going. So if you can get in and get, you know, 6 years under your belt, you know, getting some of these issues through, you know, the people are going to support you, and the money's going to come in again to re-election if you choose to run again. So I think that's a great position to take. You know, a lot of corporate Dems are sort of taking that position. I don't know how long it's going to last. You know what? That's the one thing we've always noticed is that corporate Democrats always become progressive Democrats during election years.
Right.
And then as soon as
Yes,
as soon as they're back in office, they're no longer progressive.
Right.
So they always try to change their
Well, like
ideas.
De Leon, for instance.
Well,
I mean, De Leon
Yeah.
has a lot of name recognition, and he's been, in elected office in California a really long time. So really, you're running to beat him, so that you can then beat Feinstein.
Yeah, I've got to get past him. Obviously, right now it's interesting because he's been in state office, but most people don't follow state politics, to be honest. And his name recognition, I think it's been jacked up since the convention, but his name recognition was really not that great before. It was about 9 to 10%, and he's probably jacked that up because he's been on a lot of television shows recently. But I tell people this, look, I can disagree with progressives on certain issues. I don't support the Delta tunnels, but I think you can make an argument and say you're still progressive. I don't support charter schools, but I understand there's an argument. I'm not going to say you're not progressive enough. But the one argument you cannot make is I'm taking corporate money and I'm a progressive.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit. It's the equivalent of saying I'm going to be a vegetarian, but I'm going to eat meat 5 times a week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are you a
Can't do it.
vegetarian, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Are you a vegetarian?
You're an animal lover.
I am a huge animal lover, and it is the big hypocrisy of my life that and it's the one thing I beat myself up on. I have cut back to where I eat meat about once a week, sometimes maybe twice, from being a total growing up on nothing but meat. But
Arkansas farm boy, essentially.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But I have to admit because I am such an animal lover, I have to admit to a certain degree of hypocrisy that on occasion I do have.
Watch some of those documentaries like Oakjaw, or that's the movie Oakjaw, or what's the
What
one?
the hell?
What the hell? I mean, yeah, you'll be a vegetarian.
Food
in no
Inc.
I've seen
If you
some of the
convince
videos.
the mind, it's easy.
Well, that's we have to convince the mind about this cannabis too, and I think this is an issue for 2018 and for 2020, and Kamala's going to might be running for president, so there might be another Senate seat. If for some reason you don't make it into the top 2, I wouldn't count yourself out in the future in the next couple of years. But I think, I'm really glad to see we have a champion of cannabis.
It's great to see a champion of cannabis. I think, I love that you're progressive across the board and you're on board with all of the right, Wellstonian, Sanders, Warren-esque, things, all the right stuff. I mean, really all the right stuff. I mean, the only thing is that, you look like Joe Biden.
I know.
You're a white guy.
I
You're a
get-
middle-aged white guy, and that's just, it's not what's happening right now.
I gotta tell
If you were can you be trans? Can you do?
Yeah, can we find a
I was at a trans ball in Fresno. I went to the trans ball to support one of our supporters
Okay.
in Fresno. And I got to tell you, I had so many of them come up to me and say, we've never had anybody who was straight who actually came to this. Is there any
Nice.
way, because you are an old white guy, is there any way you can become a trans? And I said, well, you guys will have to teach me. I don't know.
Well, there you
Well,
go.
you
You
know-
gotta be
you
true
know,
to
we're-
what you are.
we are recovering white American men, Pat. We
Yes.
are,
Well,
it's a new age.
I tell the old white guys at
Different
work
age.
who are bummed out about missing their opportunities to rise in life that I'm like, just embrace the old part. You're old. There's the old part of that. You can still, use your power for good. You still can. And you are. Using our power for good is all we can do. I mean, look, I'm a white woman. Apparently, I helped elect Donald Trump, even though I didn't help elect Donald Trump. But, I try to use my powers for good and try to normalize cannabis use. I let people know that I use cannabis all the time, that my mom uses cannabis for medicine. She has my entire life. She used it for gallstones growing up. We use it for dementia treatment now. And I love that you are a champion of cannabis. Let's get it out there and let everybody know.
I will tell you this, and I will say this. I know that was nice of you to mention about 2020, but what I would like to do is, if this doesn't work out, I would like to try and do something to help, as you say, normalize cannabis use. I think I'm a good symbol for it because, nothing would be better to normalize cannabis in this country than an old, fat, bald, white guy.
Hi.
That's what we're all about here on
Look
this show.
at us. We're pretty normal.
We're about as far outside the demographic of a pot smoker, stoner as you get.
I think I would be a good person to help normalize it because
Yeah. So do you use cannabis yourself?
I don't, which is what makes it additionally I think a very positive thing is I don't feel the need to. I'm just not somebody who likes smoke at all. And in terms of edibles, I've done edibles before, but I do that on occasion. But to me,
it's not your thing.
Really, it's not. And I don't drink alcohol very much. I rarely drink. I'm just not. I don't know.
You don't get headaches, so there you go.
Right, I don't. And I got to tell you, I think that's a good image for the cannabis industry. I think it would be a good thing.
I think it's great. I love it.
So let's talk about that a little bit, just to get to the issue of sort of, at least nationally, one of the conversations is about the opioid epidemic.
Yes,
and how cannabis is really everywhere it goes. It is helping in this issue. So tell us a little about what's your experience, what's your knowledge and your research about how cannabis is going to help us alleviate this problem.
Well, one of the things in my stump speech, the longer stump speech that I'll have to send it to you, is I talk about the research that's come out of Colorado on a number of specific issues. It's truly amazing. One of them is opioid use, and we're seeing the decrease in opioid use, and it's almost contributed by law enforcement, contributes almost totally to people who are using cannabis to break away from the opioids and sort of use it to actually, it's a reverse gateway. That's what I love. It's the sort of the reverse gateway of getting it to come down. There's also the most fascinating statistic to me, though, I got to tell you. They are now saying in Colorado was down almost 25% in the last few months. 25% domestic violence. And law enforcement attributes that to cannabis because instead of men coming home and getting drunk and becoming angry, they're coming home and eating a brownie or smoking a joint, and they're mellowing out and they're not angry. And that's what they're contributing the drop in domestic violence to. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And I can back that up. My sister's a nurse in Colorado, like an emergency room nurse. She's in management now, and she backs that up. You are definitely seeing a decrease. You're seeing a decrease in even, they still have homeless in Boulder, Colorado, but you're seeing a decrease actually in the homeless population and drinking and violence among the homeless community because they are able to get cannabis. People can give them cannabis and so it's true. That is pretty amazing. It really touches so many areas of our lives as human beings and as Americans.
It would really transform society to get it off the Schedule 1. So really, what I'm hearing from you is that we need to send personal letters to our elected officials to try to sway them to see how great how cannabis can be.
I think we have to have, I'm still fairly new to this. Like I said, it's something that 2 years ago I picked up, as I mentioned, from my friend, and I'm still fairly new to it. But I really feel like that the shows like yours and people getting out and talking about it to normalize it, that's where we're lacking. I don't think letters are bad per se, because hopefully they do read them. But, a letter it's not personal enough. We have to be on top of our politicians. We have to be in their faces about this. And we have to make sure they understand this. You just mentioned it. You said it. This is transformative. This has the potential to be transformative. And there's very few things you can say that about this country. There's very few things when you think about it, you can say, boy, if we could do this, this would transform so much of America in a positive way. Yeah. Cannabis, and we're not getting that message across. It's not broad enough. We need people shouting from the rooftops because there's still, you guys know better than I do, but it's still an industry where people look at it and go, "Oh, that's the two guys down in the basement smoking a joint."
Right.
That's how they view it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I love that you said that. That's great because we also have another project about cannabis.
I mean, this has really, I mean, we've been, of course, users for many years, and of course, has been a part of Chella's family life. But, when Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2010, it really, that became our focus, first of all.
Yeah.
And then doing the investigation and the research, like what's going on in Israel, they use it in all their homes, and just finding out that it actually is pretty good for dementia. And there's Big Pharma wants a piece of this. It's true, but there's one pharmaceutical company that's actually doing research with micro doses of plant-based THC and Alzheimer's, and they're having amazing results.
If Big Pharma can get it to my mom, I'm happy for them to get it to my mom. I have no problem with that. But I don't want it to be the only avenue to get cannabis.
Right.
I think that, like, in a nursing home, you might need Big Pharma to put it into a pill form and make it so that they can take it. Because, it's not like my mom is super compliant.
Yeah, it's a botanical. It's tough. They don't know what to do. They're all crazy. The FDA is like, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah,
it's a huge problem because what you've got are so many drug companies, and not just drug companies, but so many of the scientists and researchers can't do the work that we need to be done on cannabis, because it's illegal.
It's on the Schedule 1.
I really, I'm that's kind of a straw man argument. That's part of the talking points. There's 25,000 pages of accredited research out there.
Sure.
In the United States.
25 more though.
Yeah.
Plus more from Israel.
And plus from all over the world. We need,
But you're right.
More research.
We got to get it off the Schedule 1. It's true.
Well, now, what are the ramifications? Canada's running into some issues here, because they're about to legalize, and they're going to be breaking 3 UN treaties doing it. So they either have to not legalize it, withdraw from those treaties, because basically international drug policy is based on United States drug policy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take it off of Schedule 1, other countries are, like Paraguay is basically violating international law by doing what they're doing, by legalizing all of their drugs.
Uruguay,
right. And Canada looks like it may be doing that with cannabis. So what do you think? If we actually deschedule cannabis on a federal level,
I'm sorry, you cut out there. I'm sorry, Dave. What was the last?
I'm just saying, if we deschedule cannabis on a federal level, what are the implications internationally? We're going to get into trouble with the UN. That might be a reason why it's not going to happen.
No, we're not going to get into trouble. The rest of the country, the rest of the world. I still believe, despite what's happened with the election of Donald Trump, the rest of the world follows the United States in terms of things like this, and most of the world's ahead of us actually on this. But you're not gonna see any international problems at all. There, countries that we deal with, we almost always provide them in terms of aid and in terms of economics than they provide us. Nobody has ever been able to tell the United States what we want. We're gonna back off you. The only country that's ever been successful at is pretty much Turkey, because Turkey has the air bases there, and Turkey has the ability to threaten the U.S. that they'll close the air bases in the Middle East, and so Turkey can kind of get away with some stuff. But the other countries, they're not going to fight the U.S. on it.
Well, we've always ignored the General Assembly or anything else that they do anyway. So
that's true.
So we're just going, whatever.
Whatever.
And that's essentially what some of the other guys are doing too. So it's probably not that big of a. And even conservatives, they're like, "Well, UN schmooan, who cares? We're going to do whatever we want." Well, that's good. That's great. Well, this has been great. This has been an awesome. We usually go over the week's news in cannabis, and there's been a couple of things this week that caught our eye. We've tried to, because I think this is part of what normalization and mainstreaming is. The local news is one of the most trusted news sources, not the big cable newses, but your local channels are very trusted by local people when they're watching, so to see stories that they're talking about in their towns about cannabis and the legalization process, whether it's medicinally or recreational. We like to focus on that and talk about what's going on. I'll tell you what. I tell you who got a dose of cannabis this week was Fox and Friends was talking to that guy in Illinois, the guy, Thomas Benjamin Wolf. And here's another interesting
Benjamin
character.
Thomas
You're
Jr.
talking about, Pat, you're talking about you're a good face for this cause. I agree. And here's another one. He's a former FBI agent who didn't, State Department official, national security official, worked with George W. Bush, Condoleezza Rice, the list of people you would not
Conservative
expect.
credentials.
You would not expect to be on board cannabis.
Yeah.
Didn't do it when he was in the FBI because he couldn't.
Yeah.
Didn't do it until he was out a few years ago. And it's literally, he says
Yeah,
in
he's
this
also
interview.
new to cannabis.
He's new to cannabis. He literally says it transformed his life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And now it is
Opened his mind.
He'd opened his mind. He does it as an act of civil disobedience because they came back the next day and somebody said, "Hey, you could be arrested for doing what you're doing." And he's like, "Well, I consider it. He doesn't do it every day, but it's part of his routine, and he considers an act of civil disobedience, and he'll continue to do it after he gets elected." And cannabis is on the ballot in Illinois. Cannabis is on the ballot in
Indiana. And there's a cannabis candidate in Indiana.
Cannabis candidate in Indiana. We are seeing success.
How many states is cannabis on the ballot this time in 2018?
Good question. There's a bunch. Recreational is on. I don't have a number. It's on. I follow this guy, Tom Engel, Marijuana Moment. He's got a great tracking place with all the legislation. And it's hard to keep up because whether it's CBDs in Tennessee or CBD in Tennessee or Kentucky, or some of these other more conservative states, or full recreational in New Jersey or Vermont, which is did through a legislative action, first state ever. So we have hit a tipping point, and I think whether or not you've got I think some of these candidates are doing this for political reasons. I don't get that vibe from you. I think you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening.
And well, you have a loved one. That's the real difference is when you have a loved one who benefits from cannabis, on a visceral level what's up.
That's right. And then you add to that the tax benefit,
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I've actually now got mother-in-law was diagnosed about 2 years ago with melanoma. Melanoma. And he's been in the same situation where the greatest thing for him has been cannabis use. I talked to him. I go see him. He's actually up in Toronto, where my wife's from. But I go up and see him, and he'll sit there and tell you stories about going through chemo, and that cannabis was the only thing that really could actually do anything for him, to relieve the pain, to be able to let him even to walk or do anything. So yeah, it's very personal for me. But I got to tell you, to be honest, I just look at it and think, the more I've learned about it, this is just ridiculous. I mean, we are. When you say people are political, this isn't political. This is just stupidity.
Yeah. Well, you see the lives that have been ruined also.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, being in the criminal justice system, I've actually had to do federal cases where, we were talking mandatory minimums, where guys are looking at 10 to 15 years with no other choice. I mean, there wasn't, the judge couldn't, even if they wanted to, sentence them for less than that. Now, there are things that we kind of could work the system a little bit, but you did see people, growers, you saw sellers going to prison for 15, 20, 25 years, and they're still there in a lot of cases. It's a real, this is a real issue that I honestly believe, I'm obviously, you've seen my platform. I believe very strongly in Medicare for all. I believe very strongly in cutting the defense budget. I believe very strongly in terms of environmentally trying to get this country 100% renewable by 2050. But the issue that is least talked about, and this is what I say in my stump speech, that would have probably the most absolute of Medicare for all, is the legalization of cannabis and the ability to actually be able to market it for what it's good for the possibilities, to be able to mainstream it, normalize it. As I mentioned earlier, and I think you guys have said as well, probably, we're talking about a plant that in 20 and 25 years will be aspirin. It'll be Advil. It'll be whatever.
Yeah.
And the longer we hold off on this, it's just, that's my soapbox.
I
Very
love
good.
it.
Excellent.
I love it.
Well, that was
bravo.
bravo. We should have looked harder, but now we've got it on DC 420 LA. And we'll chop this up a little bit into some video and put it up on the station. But this has been great. I agree with you. It's crazy. It's crazy that we're doing this to people. It's crazy we're doing this to kids. That we're doing this to people of color. That we're doing this to veterans. That we're not allowing them access.
Old people. It's everybody that says that they're for. The Democrats are for social justice. The conservatives are for the veterans. Everybody's for states' rights.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
and yet they just don't. They can't get past the lies that our government's been telling us.
This is the issue of this election cycle. Paint your bus green.
I think so. They were.
Listen, did. You're right.
I'm telling you, paint it green so everybody knows exactly where you stand. Don't hide from it. Don't shrink from it. Because De Leon did, and he will. And if you really want to get your name out there and be unashamed.
We are a larger demographic than gay marriage was. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Everybody
very
smokes
small
weed.
Population. It's a far, pretty much everybody smokes weed, and it's because of the benefits, because of all of everything that it does. We can change things with this. Yeah. I guess this sort of micro issue in a larger community if we can just get more people.
It's true.
To open up about it and to talk about it with their friends. Even in Hollywood where we work, it's still above the line. It's like no problem.
Well,
for the most part, but below the line, it's still if the workers
huge problem.
The workers know you smoke weed, they make fun of you, blah 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 blah. But they'll go home and pound an 18 pack while they're watching the game. No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Did you get hammered this weekend? Oh yeah, it was great. But. Did you get high this weekend? Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. It was awesome,
Yeah.
So, that's what we're trying to do on this show. I really appreciate that you're making this an issue. You realize that this is you're not making it an issue. You realize that this is the issue that is going to change a lot of things for this country, on top of all the other progressive, issues that are going to take care of things. So, really appreciate you coming on the show, talking about this topic. And where can people go to, what's your website? Where can people follow you? Events, something coming up? What can you tell us?
Yeah, you can go to Pat Harris for FOR Senate.com. That's the website address. And realistically, there's a calendar up. Although I think we have to tomorrow. We're actually going to work on the calendar because we go everywhere. We're all over the place, and I don't think it's been updated. Week. So you can look at the calendar. You can also, I don't take corporate donations. So I depend on individuals. I depend on people to donate. I had a donation for $1 yesterday.
Nice.
And I appreciate it. People donate $50, $100, whatever they can do, whatever they can afford. And that's really appreciated because it does make it for me to be able to go out and tell people, look, you don't need to take corporate donations. And I honestly believe of all the things Bernie Sanders accomplished, the single biggest thing he accomplished in 2016 was he didn't need to go to Wall Street to get money. That the people would fund it if they found somebody they could believe in. And we've got to keep that up. We've got to show the Democratic Party. We've got to show this country you do not have to go to Wall Street to fund these campaigns.
Well, we'll be watching for the numbers coming out of the FEC filing for this first quarter. I understand you're looking at about $90 average donation, so that's pretty good. I think if we can get your message out and what our small little silly blog can do for you.
Yes,
we will do what we can.
Silly blog at all. It's an important blog. It's important to have people who are willing to talk about mainstream. Especially people people can look at and say, when you're sitting there talking about your mother and they can hear stories about that, that's what we've got to do.
Well, we try. We try. We've got an Alzheimer's pot dramedy also brewing. So
yes, we've got a screenplay.
We'll keep you in touch with that.
It looks like it might be a teleplay now. I don't know,
It's a series for sure.
It's consumed. The whole thing has consumed our lives, and it's quite frankly,
Yeah.
I ain't got time to worry about Donald Trump. I really don't.
No. I have to go to my
when your
mom's nursing
dying.
home every day because they
Yeah.
don't check her diaper often enough, and now she has diaper rash.
Yeah.
Wow.
On top of being super nervous all day long and her feet shaking and her eyes being crusty. And we taxpayers pay $10,000 a month to the facility. My mom pays $1,000 a month to the facility for so $11,000 a month, and she has to be nervous all day. And they're holding me hostage and saying, "Oh, we can give her more medicine, but you have to put her in hospice, and it has to be one of the hospices that is owned by the same corporation that owns the nursing home."
One of each. We had a choice of two hospices, but they're both owned by the same corporation.
The corruption
that's owned
and
by
the
that's
state
owned by the nursing home.
of elder care in our society is just shameful.
Well, that's a whole nother topic.
That's another show.
Yeah,
That's
but
That's what we have time for. We have time.
guys letting me come on though. I really do. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you letting me talk about it.
Thank you
It's
for
really
running.
close to my heart, and I just, I don't get to talk about just this issue enough, and it's really refreshing for me to be able to talk about it. So thank you.
That's great. Well,
Sweet.
we'll be watching your candidacy.
Yeah.
We've had some other interest from some of the other progressives to come on and talk about cannabis too. So we're probably going to bring them on. I hope this starts this conversation. The fact that you're out there, and you and a couple other candidates around the country that are going out there that recognize this is what's happening, and we need to get on board. And we're gonna. It's like Bernie Sanders was making people more progressive. Let's get more people on board this topic. And we thank you for doing it. And we're gonna keep track of your news and your events.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see you out there in the.
Come back again if you
come
like.
back again. Maybe we'll come out over to the studio.
Yeah.
We'll come out and visit in Studio City. We lived out there. We'll enjoy some jazz music and get together sometime. We're Angelinos. We've lived here our whole lives. So and we're I don't know what it is. It's like progressive politics gets us social. So. I think
there you go. That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Well,
I'd love to, and I do appreciate it again, guys. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much, Pat. You can certainly stay in the hangout. We're going to play some. We're going to take a little break, do a little change up of the camera situation here, and then we're going to play some news stories that we caught this week.
And then talk about them on the back end.
And talk about them on the back end. But thanks everybody for watching. We've been talking to Pat Harris, progressive Democrat running here in California for the United States Senate. He's running against Dianne Feinstein in her bid for her 6th term as senator here in California. He's a progressive that is a champion of cannabis.
And on the ballot.
Actually.
Progressive on the ballot.
And we have a crazy system here.
That's a big deal.
In California. It's a two-party, or rather, they call it the jungle primary or whatever they're calling it. But it's a top two system. Anybody can race. Quite frankly, maybe Pat, we can talk about this maybe later after we do a little news roll up or another time. But it looks like California has effectively been gerrymandered to be Democrat on these nationwide offices, these nation level offices. Because unless you get an Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's going to come up and run for Senate? We saw that with the Kamala Harris race. So we had top two Democrats. So that's another topic. But we're going to take a little break, folks. We're going out over Weed TV right now, which is very exciting, as well as YouTube at DC420LA. That's our social following everywhere on all the platforms. You can find us at DC420LA on Facebook, on Twitter, on Steemit for you decentralized blockchain fans. Going out over D Live. That's very cool. And now going out over Weed TV as a syndicated show. Every Sunday at 4:20, we do this on Sundays here from California, the capital of cannabis, or soon to be maybe, although apparently they smoke more weed in New York than they do here in California.
But it's not legal.
But it's not legal. Yeah, wait till they legalize it.
They're lagging.
So I'm a little dry mouth here. I'm gonna get a little water. We're gonna take a little breaks. Please stick with us. Cello's in the chat. Thank you, Pat Harris, for joining us. Progressive candidate for U.S. Senate in California. You can follow him at patharrisforsenate.com. Give him some ducats and keep him going. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back at DC420LA Live.
Thanks, everybody.
Jeffcoat is no longer an employee of Texas Wesleyan University. We do not tolerate discrimination. It is a random.
That is the moment we all found out a local university took action today after a former coach's email went viral. But that's not the only reason officials sacked Mike Jeffcoat. Rachel Hackbarth live for us on campus in Fort Worth with a look at the factors we hear that led to the coach's firing. Rachel?
Well, Doug, that email exchange with that Colorado student happened last month, but it was just leaked this week. And as of today, that coach is now without a job.
Mike Jeffcoat is no longer an employee of Texas Wesleyan University.
The leaders of Texas Wesleyan University made it clear today they are not standing by the actions of now former head baseball coach Michael Jeffcoat.
He was separated from the university due to the discriminatory remarks contained in an email to a potential recruit from the state of Colorado, and for another factor that we have been investigating for the last week.
This is the email that is getting nationwide attention. In it, Jeffcoat told Colorado student athlete Gavin Bell he will not recruit from his home state because of its stance on legalized marijuana, saying in part, in the past players have had trouble passing our drug test, adding, you can thank your liberal politicians.
What does it have to do with anything with me playing baseball because of past encounters and not taking a chance with me?
The firing is a decision many students and student athletes are happy about.
I think it's crazy because he's discriminating against the whole state. Everybody has their own opinion about some things, and just because he had his own opinion, he has that right.
You just have to be cautious of what you say. Just like the coaches also told us, is just basically, everybody's watching. Anybody's watching at any time. So you always have to be aware of your surroundings, and anything can get out anywhere, especially with the days that we live in with social media.
Now, we reached out to that student that we were talking about, Gavin Bell, but we didn't hear back just yet. He wasn't available. As for the school, they say they would love to have Gavin here. They're going to try to reach out to him today, and they don't have an interim coach just yet. As for that separate investigation, that's still ongoing. In Fort Worth, Rachel Hackbarth, CBS 11 News.
That's quite disturbing. I'm still trying to get over this video.
This evening, a WDAM exclusive. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The man who swore to uphold the law as chief of police in Lumberton appears to break it in front of a camera.
That's right. Our Mike McDaniel is on your side and joins us live in the studio with the video you'll only see on News 7.
Yeah, we started asking questions after the chief was suspended recently and then unexpectedly submitted his resignation. We were told it was all about a personnel matter and never given a comment. Now, with this video, city leaders are talking.
Yeah, but the police need to be...
This is Lumberton Police Chief Shane Flint on video smoking what he himself implies is marijuana.
Because I'm the only chief of police in Lumberton that likes to smoke weed.
While we don't know when the video was recorded, at times, Christmas music can be heard in the background.
I like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers.
Also in the background, what appears to be Flint's chief uniform. Using vulgar language and a broken pipe, he laughs about being the chief of police and high.
You don't know no cool. Who the coolest is? Me. I'm the coolest.
To get some answers, we took our questions about the video to the police department, straight to Chief Flint.
We just want to know if we could ask you just
some
questions about your suspension, your reasons why you may have wanted to.
I don't have no comment on that. I mean, it's already been covered,
What can we ask you about the video of you?
What video?
The video of you allegedly smoking marijuana?
I'm not aware of any of that.
I can show it to you.
I'm not aware of any of that.
You haven't seen the video?
No, sir. I'm not aware of it. I don't have no comment.
Would you like to see it?
No, sir.
We have the video. Would you like to see it?
Chief Flint was not interested in talking to us and went back inside the department. So we took our questions to Mayor Quincy Rogers, who says he hadn't seen the video, so we showed it to him.
That's my...
What goes through your mind knowing that that's the chief of police in your city?
Disturbing.
According to board minutes, Flint was voted in as chief back in September by the Board of Aldermen. In mid-February, he was suspended for what city leaders and the mayor would only say is a personnel matter, remaining silent when we started asking questions. That suspension didn't last long, when a unanimous vote from the board, February 22nd, put Flint back on the job.
As a superintendent of this city, I felt that I should have seen this. I'm very hurt.
Mayor Rogers said he had heard about a video of Chief Flint and was told the Board of Aldermen had it, but never showed him.
You didn't ask the alderman if you could see it?
Yes.
You did ask?
Yes, I have.
And what did they tell you?
That they will let me see it, but as of today, this is the first time that I've seen that.
We reached out to every board member, but only one, Jonathan Griffith, called us back and agreed to talk. He says he had never seen the video and wasn't aware of any other board member having seen it either.
Everyone in life makes mistakes. And so it is our intent to make sure that we investigate this matter properly.
Griffith questions the video and why it was released, saying everyone deserves a second chance.
Would you support the police chief in remaining in his position currently?
I currently support the police chief. Yes, I do.
That's quite disturbing. I'm still trying to get over this video.
Now, Mayor Rogers says the city will be taking action, but wasn't clear on exactly what that will be. We're told Chief Flint did previously volunteer to take a drug test, but the results were not complete. Live in the studio for you this evening, Mike McDaniel, WDAM 7 News.
Yeah, but the police need to be...
This is Lumberton Police Chief Shane Flint, on video smoking what he himself implies is marijuana.
Because I'm the only chief of police in Lumberton that likes to smoke weed.
While we don't know when the video was recorded, at times, Christmas music can be heard.
This is actually a hilarious. This is a hilarious Reaper Madness story. Apparently, they didn't actually. Yes, car accidents are up on 420, but they don't actually have any evidence that anybody was high on any of the car accidents.
Right.
So,
We've seen this before.
I'm trying to get our cameras back up here.
Give me that weed.
Here you go.
Clearly, you need both hands.
Clearly. That was awesome.
The chief of police should just own that shit.
Well, he apparently quit.
He ended up leaving.
He should just say he uses it for headaches.
Well, he was driven out.
All right. Well, they're behind the times.
They are indeed.
The times, they are changing.
And that other story out of the South was sorry?
I'm really loving all of the enlightened politicians across the country that are running on cannabis.
Let's actually take a look at that guy.
I'm loving that we have one right here in California that we get to vote for.
Yep.
I love that he's on the ballot. You know, I love when progressive candidates are able to tick all their boxes. They make it really hard to participate in democracy. And I'm glad it really warms my heart when we progressives can follow all their rules, you know? So Pat Harris seems to be following all their rules. I love that.
Enough of the rules to get on the ballot at the
convention. Yeah, and that's great. I would love a woman. I'd love a person of color. They need to follow the rules. They got to be on the ballot, and they got to be super progressive. In my book, for me to vote for them. I hate that there's a D after his name, but what can you do? It's the system we have.
Right, Racked Souls, like, the music behind that video, too. It's like, dun, 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 dun.
Oh, I know, that video, that total Reefer Madness video.
They're coming for you.
They're coming for you.
The psycho drug addicts.
But anyway, back to the politicians that are totally busting through those stereotypes.
Oh, I love it.
I totally love it. I love, we have a couple other politicians that are riding the green wave of 2018. One is in Illinois. in Illinois' 5th district, running
right.
for state Congress.
Chicago.
Right?
No, this
Chicago.
is U.S. Congress.
For U.S.
Yeah,
Congress.
it's
Oh, sorry.
District
For U.S.
5.
Congress.
District 5.
Yeah, Illinois'
We're talking,
5th
of course,
district.
about Benjamin Thomas Wolf, who is former FBI agent.
Also running as a Democrat.
Running as a Democrat.
With a D after his name. All these people are big Bernie people. But they're running as Democrats because that's the system.
There's no other way. Pat covered that. He talked about that. You can't
There's
do
no
it.
other way.
It's so
prohibitive.
expensive and prohibitive for an independent to run. And what do you get? You run on the green ticket. You run on the Peace and Freedom ticket.
They don't give you any money.
There's no money involved.
There's no money.
Hey, okay, before we play this video with this candidate on Fox and Friends.
And then there's yet another one after this one.
Strangely, Fox News comes up with some interesting cannabis.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
They got all those libertarian Republicans that talk about it. So, and libertarians in general.
It's so weird to be on the same page as Fox.
I know.
Ugh,
But
so
we're
weird.
hoping that Donald Trump. It was on Fox and Friends, so Donald's
That's right.
probably watching.
So 45 was watching this.
That's right. But before we do that, Chell,
Yeah.
do we want to talk about oversmoking?
Yeah. Let's talk about what we're smoking. No, we're on a roll.
We're on a roll. We're on a
I feel
roll
like
with
we're on
the news
a
and
political roll.
politics.
Let's come back to this. So let's go.
We've kind of changed up the format, guys. You're watching DC 420 LA.
Yeah,
The weekend.
we had a guest today, you guys.
We had an amazing guest, a cannabis
awesome.
champion running for Senate. in
Running for
California.
Senate. Ah, it's so cool.
On our silly little weed show.
Our tiny little, silly little weed show from our living room.
Going out on Weed TV today for the
Mount
first
Washington.
time
So
live, as well as D Live, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, all the other places. If we've ignored you today, we apologize. We had an illustrious guest. We loved it. It was
It's
great.
so wild. But
so
anyway,
thanks,
so
everybody, for watching.
there's another candidate running in Illinois, and there's another one in Indiana. So the Illinois guy, Benjamin Thomas Wolf,
right?
Former FBI. Do you have some video on him?
I do. Let's watch
Let's
this.
see it. Let's see this.
watch
Fox
this.
and Friends.
Fox and Friends.
All right.
And they are just what's amazing. What's the best about this video is, of course, the reaction.
Oh, it's hilarious. Check it out. Check it out.
Cannabis candidate, and that's what he calls himself.
Yeah, seen in his latest political ad, sitting in front of a painting of the American flag and holding a joint.
Joining us now is the congressional candidate from Chicago. His name is Benjamin Thomas Wolf. Wolf is running for incumbent Mike Quigley's spot in Illinois' 5th District. He is also a former FBI investigator and national security official. So that shocked us. We were a little bit surprised by that. Why do you think that you should be holding the joint, smoking that in your campaign as you're running for office?
That's a great question. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
I think it's important that we actually start talking about legalizing cannabis. This is medicine for tens of millions of people in America. It can bring billions of dollars in tax revenue to Illinois. And really, it's the first component to completely overhauling and transitioning the criminal justice system here in America.
Benjamin, when this image went around the Twitterverse, and we saw it as well, obviously you got a lot of attention because you're smoking a joint right there. You know, people are wondering, does this guy smoke weed every day?
I don't use cannabis every day. It's a routine part of my life, but not every day.
When you were with the FBI, were you smoking pot?
Never. It's not an authorized substance. Clearly, you go through intensive background checks, polygraphs, lie detector tests, and physical tests. And no, I hadn't smoked cannabis until just a few years ago.
So it's kind of an interesting thing to focus on. Why not grab a beer or a bottle of whiskey and say, vote for me?
You know, I think, like I said, the cannabis community has been standing up, saying this is very important. And again, we're standing by what we talk about every day. It's important to walk the walk. We're taking big risks here, and I think that the Democratic Party right now is looking for new leadership, and I look forward to leading the pack.
What do you say to the people, the moms out there that are raising kids and teaching them to say no to drugs? What do you say to the people who say it's a gateway drug, or to parents that have lost their kids to overdoses?
Well, I agree with them. I think that no one under the age of 18 or possibly even 21 should be using cannabis. Again, it's a referendum here on March 20th. It's on the ballot. I think it's important that people look at all the facts and vote the way they feel is important.
Right. Mr. Wolf, you know, as a former FBI guy, that marijuana is still considered under federal law a Schedule I controlled substance. It's against the law to hold and to have. And you're in Illinois essentially breaking the law.
I'm okay with that. I see that as an act of civil disobedience and standing up for something that I feel strongly about.
Right.
So you want to go to Washington, D.C. to try to change the marijuana laws?
Well, I want to go to Washington, D.C. for a lot of reasons. Just one of them is changing the cannabis laws. We want things like universal health care, free education, strong unions, and again, cannabis is just one of those aspects.
And in a state that's overrun in red ink, do you think everything free is a good message?
Well, not everything free. I think that, again, legalizing cannabis brings billions of dollars to the state. It's one of the most important things we can do right now to help fund education and other drug initiatives.
How did you get to this point? How did you become, you were against it when you were an FBI agent, or you didn't use it, and then now all of a sudden you're using it and putting it in your campaign ads and saying that it's illegal, but you're still taking part?
I am. I think it's an evolution of me as a person. Again, I was an FBI national security official for many years. I was a United States diplomat. I served in Iraq on multiple assignments. I served in conflict zones in Africa. And now this is just part of my existence here in Chicago. It's helped me evolve. It makes me a better person, a healthier person. I think it also makes me a more empathetic person.
Well,
it's a different worldview I have these days.
Ever since that picture went out, what has been the reaction?
You know, people are really excited about it. I think, like I said, the cannabis community, the people in Chicago and most of the country are proud to have someone standing up for them. And, you know, we talk about being the cannabis candidate and someday the cannabis congressman. I'm proud to support those people.
All right. When's the election?
March 20th. Early voting started last week, so we're urging people in Chicago, Cook County, and DuPage County to get out and vote early.
Okay, the average age.
If you win, will you get high?
Definitely.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
Benjamin,
we
wish you all the best. The average age in your district is 33 years old, so we'll see.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
coming
much for
on.
having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Well,
he's fantastic.
Well,
I love him.
He's gonna get high.
He's gonna get high. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Oh my.
So this guy apparently
He's Superman.
He leaves the deep state, gets high, and has a transformation.
That's a massive transformation. I love it.
I don't know.
He's seen the world, and now he needs to get high in order to deal with Chicago. Whatever. I love it.
Yeah, no, he's either I believe he had a transformation. I believe it.
Oh, absolutely.
It
Me
opens up your
too.
mind, man.
It does.
It really does. And I find it really fascinating though that he is he's got the issue. It's on the ballot.
Yep.
In Illinois, as he said.
Yep.
So make sure the early voting has started if you're
Yeah.
in there in Chicago area, Illinois.
Yeah. If you know any Chicagoans.
District 5, I
Yeah.
think it is. Benjamin Thomas Wolf, the cannabis congressman. Come
Yeah.
on.
Get it.
It's a Democratic seat. And an average age 33.
And right now there's a liberal Republican, but not very liberal. Lakeside Republican is what that Lakeside Democrats is what they were calling his district. So I think this guy's going to kill
Lakeside
it.
Democrats.
I think this guy is going to be the first open pot smoking Congress member.
I'm making a prediction.
Me too.
Illinois is going to pass it.
Yeah.
And this guy's going to win.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I could completely be talking out of my ass.
We could be totally high.
It could be
entirely possible.
In fact, let's get a little high.
But I
here.
think that it's entirely possible that that's what's what. Let's check out the next chick with the same deal in the other state.
Oh, look, Oscar's so cute in the back.
Oscar is so amazing.
He's
And the
been
kitty right
becoming
behind
very
me.
He's been getting very she's right behind you.
I know, she's literally... Look how cute, the boo-boo. Aww. Sleepy.
All right, so you want to watch that other video with the other?
Yeah,
the other one?
show her, and then we can start talking about our haul.
Okay, let's see. Where is she?
Because that way it'll wrap up that segment.
And then we get our smartphones and marijuana to blame for rise in pedestrian deaths.
Oh, Oscar's moving. Oscar's reconnoitering. Oh.
Okay, so that's a Midwest story, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a Midwest story. Chicago's Midwest.
Okay, so let me find it.
Big Ag wants it everywhere. Casey Dabbins.
The Indie Channel.
Big Everything wants it. Big pharma wants it. Big ag wants it. Big booze wants it. Everybody wants it. I just want it too.
Is this the story?
Tell you what, they can have it, but I want it also.
Yeah,
Don't make it so that I can't have it too.
As long as they don't take it away from us too, if they're going to try.
They're gonna get it.
You know, because the big thing, one of
But
the
I
big
just
things are
think
all
it's
these
important that we have it.
bullshit stuff that's going on in these laws is the plant limitations.
Yeah, that's all kinds of horseshit.
I mean, that's horseshit.
That's total horseshit.
So, I think Pat's talking about we need to change his tax situation.
Pat Harris?
Pat Harris. Our
Yeah.
illustrious guest.
It's true.
We need to change
But he's
that
like,
tax
within 30 days, well, we better get on the stick.
Better get on the stick on that. Yeah.
How is that going to happen?
Maybe he needs, Pat should write, well, I was going to say he's elected.
The Koch brothers support cannabis?
Oh, yeah. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, yeah. That's part of that whole.
They're very quiet about it.
That whole libertarian. No, they're not really.
We're going to be able to buy cannabis at Walmart?
They're not that quiet about it, really.
Really?
They're pro the states' rights. The states' rights. They
Yeah.
don't destroy everything else.
All right.
That's why
Let's check out the next
Rohrbacher,
lady.
Pat's at Rohrbacher. Yeah, he's high, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, but that's cool. But he doesn't admit to being high.
He sees
Ever.
aliens and shit, and
No, but that doesn't mean he's high.
Yeah,
You could see aliens sober. Just saying.
But we have some strange bedfellows.
aliens.
We have strange bedfellows in the cannabis fight here in America.
Are you saying that people that believe in aliens are strange?
Yeah. Well, hey, not anymore.
No.
Not anymore.
No.
It's coming out.
There are loads of aliens.
All right, so I think this is the story. I'm going to play this anyway, but it's the Indie channel. I don't know if it's what it is.
But no, I want to.
It's about this. Yeah, it's about her.
Okay, yes, that's her. Okay, great. Let's get it.
I guess this isn't Illinois. That was Illinois. This is Indiana.
Yes, Indiana.
Yeah, okay, I am high. Okay, here we go.
Starts with an I.
A local group is fighting for medical marijuana in Indiana, and this weekend they are bringing even more supporters into the movement. State Representative Jem Lucas, along with CBD legalization leader Leela Jerger, they talked about their plans to change Indiana's cannabis laws today at a public call-out event in Beech Grove. IndyCan is a local group focused on passing legislation they say would help people battling terminal illness. Anna Murray is running for Indiana Senate in the state's 46th district. She says there is a high demand among veterans.
We've got a lot of veterans in my area, and they are very ready to have, marijuana is the only thing that helps a lot of them who have PTSD. Nothing else helps. And, it's a drug that has very little side effects compared to a lot of the other drugs that you might take, and it's not as effective, the other prescription drugs.
IndyCan has been working with Representative Lucas on a medical cannabis bill, along with a hemp bill and a CBD bill.
Northern Michigan University is one-of-a-kind marijuana major, and it's growing in numbers.
Indiana.
So Indiana, this lady.
They're hitting all the points there. Medical marijuana, CBD bill, hemp bill.
They want to catch up. Indiana wants to catch up. And I think she's going to win big because cannabis is on the ballot, and she is a pro-cannabis candidate.
Cannabis is on the ballot. It wins big. We were talking about Tom Engel, of course. He not only does he write for Marijuana Moment, which is his blog, which is amazing, but he writes for Forbes. He's a contributor. To Forbes. And this was his article from back in November, talking about how marijuana won on Tuesday's election in all the states that was on the ballot.
Cannabis wins, man.
Candidates were on the ballot. They won, and they won big. District attorneys, governors, propositions.
I think that the candidates that are going to win are going to be the ones that are really unashamed about their support for cannabis. And I love that Benjamin Thomas Wolf had a joint in his hand and admits to being a pot smoker. Maybe there's hope for you, babe.
For running, you mean?
Yeah, you were saying an atheist vegetarian pot smoker. Maybe the vegetarian might kill you.
Pot smoker, not so much anymore. I could probably get elected pot smoking.
I wonder if Kucinich smokes pot.
It's the atheist part is the problem. Even vegetarian now is not so bad.
Well, vegan.
Even Bubba's a vegan. Come on.
Yeah, but Bubba wasn't always a vegan.
That's true. He doesn't run. He's not running anymore.
And he does weed, but he believes in God. And he's a philanderer.
That's the biggest one. That's
There's
the
a whole status
No,
quo
never-
situation with
there's
him.
The polling is, will an atheist ever be elected in a higher office? And it's not happening. So that's, but thank you anyway.
Well, I think the cannabis candidates are going to do great.
I think
and
so, too.
I would totally bet on them, guys.
Listen.
And if you're a candidate, I would totally 100% embrace that cannabis.
If there's a cannabis candidate that wants to run against Adam Schiff,
Oh, let us know. We got lots of friends in Glendale.
we got lots of people that want to get him out.
Oh my gosh, so many people want to get rid of Adam Schiff. A cannabis candidate who's a community leader in Glendale, who's well known in the Glendale community. Oh my God, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
It would.
I might even volunteer again. Ugh, I hate doing all that. But for cannabis, I would do it.
Well, listen,
because
we started this channel because we couldn't handle all the, we just couldn't
the
handle
regular
just
politics.
The infighting was ridiculous. And
It's still ridiculous, but
the
cannabis,
Ds and the,
cannabis has got to be taken off the Schedule 1 of drugs.
Right.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what party you're with. I don't care anything, but cannabis has got to be taken off the Schedule 1 of drugs, and that's my only focus.
And of course, it's a Sorry, I keep hitting that button. And it's got to be a multifaceted approach. It has to be done. We have, the administrative stuff has to be taken on. That was one of the things that was a big disappointment on Obama. One of the many was that he didn't deschedule cannabis.
Yeah, Obama could have changed everything.
Could have done it.
And didn't. That was a real disappointment.
Yeah. So he went to.
Hey, I would be thrilled if 45 descheduled cannabis. It could happen. He wants to do what Jeff Sessions he wants to go against what Jeff Sessions wants. So we could talk 45 into listen, I don't care, whatever it takes.
Who does he
whatever
hate more, Obama
it takes.
or Sessions? Is that
He hates Sessions with a passion, and Sessions is a thorn in his side.
Well,
so we should all send 45 nice notes telling him to get back at Sessions and take cannabis off the Schedule 1 of drugs.
Well, listen, you got it. Well, he just came out recently that he thinks drug dealers should get the ultimate penalty, So I don't know if he's putting all
But
of the
cannabis isn't a drug. He even said so himself, that the people get great benefit from the cannabis.
That's right. That's why he's
from
in
the
our
marijuana? Isn't that what he says?
That's
the
what-
marijuana.
From the he knows on the marijuana. Yeah.
From the marijuana.
No, that's why he's in our open. He's but he's pretty much a an empty vessel. He just fills up whatever comes in the room.
Let's just keep weed
who would
coming
have thought?
into the room.
Who would have thought it would be Donald Trump, the conservative, that's going to grab all the guns? So you never.
Whatever,
never know
I'll
what you're
take
gonna
it.
get.
I'll take it. All right, what's next?
What's next? Let's. God, that was such a great interview.
It was wonderful. And I love that there are more and more people, progressives, strong progressives, real serious candidates that are running for Congress that want the things that the people want. It's great. I love it. Really great.
Okay, let's see. What's next? Oh, okay. This is a good one. A couple of good stories, actually. Well, good story, bad story coming out of the West, coming out of Denver. We always like to highlight stories of, cannabis cures, cannabis care, cannabis as medicine. And when it's usually affects seniors, children, or vets, we like to highlight those stories because, as we talked about with Pat, that, there are these demographics are supposed to be supported by the Democrats and the Republicans. The vets support the vets. Democrats.
Seniors, the poor.
Seniors, the poor. Criminal justice, Democrats. Cannabis is the issue that
It's the lowest common denominator.
Covers all these
Unites
bases.
everybody.
So let's take a look at this story out of CBS Denver, and a person who wasn't so pro devil's lettuce before he started using it for his Parkinson's.
Mumbalina.
It has been 18 years now since Colorado voters legalized medical marijuana, and researchers continue to make new discoveries on pot's impact on medical conditions.
CBS 4's Jamie Leary introduces us to one reluctant patient who volunteered to help us out. An airman and then a businessman. Marijuana was not something on Gary Griffin's radar. Through the years, he never had an urge to experiment with it.
It was the devil's weed. It was awful to me.
When Griffin was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, he was suddenly open to anything that might help him sleep and stop his hands from shaking, even marijuana.
First drop, may not survive. I may go wild kicking off the balcony.
But Griffin agreed to enroll in a cannabis study with his neurologist, Maureen Leahy.
We legalized medical marijuana before we actually knew that it was effective for medical disorders.
To find out if medical marijuana would help the symptoms of Parkinson's, Dr. Leahy gave her patients CBD oil stored under lock and key at the University of Colorado Hospital. Many of her patients had positive effects.
But they had a reduction in our assessments of their motor symptoms, and they had improvement in their nighttime sleep.
For Gary, there was only a small improvement with the shaking in his hands.
I hoped for a miracle, but it didn't happen.
But he saw a dramatic improvement in his sleep.
Once I started taking CBD oil, I never had a sleepless night because I couldn't relax my muscle groups.
So much of an improvement, the man who called marijuana the devil's weed started growing it and processing his own CBD oil at home.
I'm not a stoner, but I am a proponent.
That was Jamie Leary reporting. In addition to Parkinson's, Colorado researchers are trying to determine if marijuana helps with sleep, pain, and epilepsy. Dr. Leahy plans to kick off a much larger placebo-controlled Parkinson's study in the coming months.
So the job of the writer is
Oh shit, that's right. The Oscars are on, aren't they?
Okay, we're recording. It's no big deal.
Yeah, you'd think we'd be worried about that shit. But we're not.
No, not yet. Not till we're not.
Although we are hoping someone wins.
Yes, we are hoping Alice and Janney win.
No spoilers, please. No spoilers, please. That was a master's class. I gotta say, I turned off my ad blocker, so I'm getting some of those videos through that. Maybe I'll turn that back on. But so there you go. Parkinson's changes. You get sick, and you find something that works.
Yeah, it changes your life.
Changes your life.
Change your mind a little bit. Or you have a loved one, like Pat Harris was saying. If you have a loved one that benefits from cannabis, it changes everything.
That's right. That's right.
You know.
We don't wish ill on anybody.
No.
But everyone has a story somewhere in their family. It's just a matter of finding it.
Yep. You got to come out of the green closet. If you use cannabis, write your congress member, tell your friends, talk to your coworkers. I was talking to a coworker the other day at work, and I wear these I bought these new cannabis leaf socks the other day, and I've been wearing them with my ballet flats, and you can really see all the cannabis leaves on them. And people walking down the street will look at my feet and look at my face and be like, oh my God, like the look on their face is, oh my God, like you smoke pot, you use marijuana, whatever. And I want people to know that I do, because it's normal, it's legal, there's nothing wrong with it, it's beneficial. You can hold a job and drive a functioning vehicle. You can be a functioning member of society. You can pay your bills on time. You can all these things.
I don't know how functioning I am, but
whatever. We're people look at us and go, oh, they sort of, are kind of okay. Well, I think we got people snowed. I think people are looking at us going, oh, they got their shit together, and that's why I like to wear the socks, because we got people snowed. I'm just saying.
I mean, I guess we don't have kids, so it's easier to keep our shit together, I think, than not.
That would be interesting, like if we had kids and wore the socks and stuff. That would be trippy. Yeah. Mumbelina is saying that as soon as a Republican's family member needs it, it'll be important.
Well, that's what it is.
True.
Matt Gaetz, that's why he's going to try to get it rescheduled to 3s, because his kid has epilepsy.
I think it needs to come off the schedule entirely. Take it off. Deschedule it. That way we can grow it as much as we want.
I do agree with Pat Harris, our for U.S. Senate, that I don't.
Hi, Sammy.
I don't think the UN is going to do anything to us. I think
no.
Canada's going to ignore it. They're just going to go for it, and
the UN would change their mind as soon as we changed our mind. We are the UN, you guys.
Exactly.
Come on.
We are the UN.
Come on now.
And the World Health Organization is looking at CBDs.
CBD.
CBD as that should be taken off of, basically rescheduled and internationally. So, all encouraging signs. It's been a tipping point. We have candidates embracing cannabis. We have,
it's exciting.
We have old dinosaurs that can't get over the reefer madness of it all, and making a lot of money on for-profit prisons and all that kind of stuff too. So, but I think maybe the pharma money will supersede the prison money.
Well, pharma wants it, and they'll make it okay because prisons will still get plenty of people because it's still super criminalized.
Prison. And as a matter of fact, let's take a look at a couple of guys that are going to be going to prison, or maybe, I don't know, somebody's going to jail over this one. This is a pretty big one. We talked about that with Pat, that with the taxes and the fact that it's still federally illegal or illegal in a lot of states, there's a draw there. It's so cheap and easy and great to grow out here in these states that it's, California provides 80% of the country's weed. And that obviously is not legal because you can't.
I think this year it's going to be Oregon, but okay.
This year might be Oregon. This is true. They are all washed in the green stuff. We are smoking a nice. But what are we smoking about?
I didn't load it. This one is Wiz Khalifa.
Wiz Khalifa. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it's nice. It's tasty. It's tasty. We're gonna go over all this in a bit, but you got more news to share.
Okay, yeah. I want to play this. The DAA. Now here in California, we had a raid in San Bernardino.
Because there's so many raids in San Bernardino.
The county sheriff up there has no love of cannabis.
Which, again, is why it needs to be off the Schedule 1 of drugs.
Indeed. But this is a story out of Denver. We do have an issue with continued black market and gray market, because this is what this is about.
There's always going to be a black and gray market.
This recreational adult use tax and regulate fazul is a way to make a lot of money. And there's some greedy states and greedy cities, and some not so much. And to lock up more people and have a list, basically, of who's legal and who's not legal. So here's a couple of chaps, or I don't know how many people, but this is a big one. It's a big bust. Let's take a look at this. It's in Denver.
Denver, okay.
From Denver 7, the Denver Champ.
This morning we saw the SWAT team and the guns out here. That was scary.
Tonight, an international drug cartel is busted just feet away from a local school. Neighbors and parents are on edge.
Shocked. Totally shocked. This is a quiet neighborhood.
How they were able to infiltrate a Colorado community to traffic drugs.
Denver 7 starts right now.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Shannon Ogden. Piles of marijuana were pulled from multiple homes in Firestone today during a raid by the DEA. And it all went down very near Imagine Charter School, which had to be put on lockout. Denver 7 Sally Mamdou at the Shores subdivision, one of the neighborhoods raided. Sally?
Remnants of the marijuana seized today can be found on this driveway here in this quiet Firestone neighborhood. Neighbors here tell me they never saw this coming.
What's up with that, huh?
A smell potent for Cindy Dennison that she had to cover half of her face, but still, she wanted to snap pictures of the rare scene of marijuana laying in the driveway of her neighbor's home.
My assumption is that somebody in a ranch home in this neighborhood is parents, people that aren't here to grow pot.
An assumption thought by many in these quiet Firestone Frederick neighborhoods, where this morning neighbors woke up to the sights and sounds of a large marijuana raid.
As a trend, DEA has observed and identified hundreds of houses, if not thousands, in the Denver and metro area that are growing marijuana for supply to the rest of the United States.
Today, the Drug Enforcement Administration raided over 10 homes. Nearly every raided home we went to had piles of marijuana sitting outside. The raid put Image Charter School on lockout for nearly 40 minutes. For neighbors, it's an unexpected discovery.
Shocked. Totally shocked. I mean, this is a quiet neighborhood. We had no idea.
Derek Odney with the DA can't comment much on the raid due to the ongoing investigation. He does tell that the DA typically prosecutes drug organizations that use these homes as hubs for illicit marijuana grow. DEA says many of these suspects are possibly associated with a criminal organization from Asia. All of these homes that were raided today were purchased and registered under different names. The DEA says the legalization of marijuana in Colorado has made it easy for illicit marijuana grow homes to blend in.
Colorado's been a draw for people from around the country to come here to Colorado to grow marijuana for supply back to where they came from. And that's a result of the limited or the lack of regulatory and enforcement.
In Firestone, Sally Memdu, Denver 7.
Aurora police are also targeting illegal grows, specifically in the southeast part of town. In fact, they're going to host a meeting tonight to share tips on identifying these grows and outline their efforts to remove them. That meeting's at 6:30. It'll be at the Heritage Eagle Bend Clubhouse.
Confiscated pop plant.
So they had 7 houses in that cul-de-sac growing cannabis.
And all that gear on the dudes, those hazmat gear, man. Maybe if it was full of mold, they'd need that stuff.
Oh no, they don't want to get those terpenes on them.
They don't want to get those icky cooties, those
Trichomes.
terpenes, trichone action
I
on
love
their
the lady.
skin.
I love the
Yeah.
lady with the.
Yeah, oh, I don't want to smell it. Oh my
don't wanna
God,
smell it.
seriously? It's not gonna hurt
It's
ya.
a wonder. I love the smell.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It smells so good.
What a shame, huh?
Totally weird. Totally weird.
But hey,
I mean, it's not for
sensibly
everybody.
taxed. Sensibly, it's not for. Obviously, it's not for.
It's not for everybody.
Doesn't do it, but he supports it. It's great. I think it's even
Well,
better.
I
right.
just think that Pat hasn't found the right strain.
He hasn't found the right edible yet.
Who knows? We haven't spoken.
5 to 2.
We haven't spoken to Pat at any length about maybe what his ailments might be. Maybe he has a little bit of insomnia or anxiety, or I don't know. I'm not saying he does. I'm just saying, maybe he has sciatica or joint problems.
Listen, you need some good sleep you need good sleep.
Oh my
on the
gosh,
road.
the THCA.
And
just a few drops.
We've only got a couple of news videos left today.
Should we end with
rolling
this?
up.
You want to finish the videos and finish with this?
It wasn't a big news week.
Finish the
honestly.
videos and then we'll do this.
We're pretty much done.
Oh, no more videos? Nothing else to share with the people?
Let's just show one more video about this California's recreational market and what it means to the economy here in California. And then we're going to go into a little where we weed to this week.
I got a hint.
And what's
ITSG.
ITSG. So, and actually, I think all of ITSG's in the house. So, good timing.
A good bunch anyway, yeah.
So let's take a look at. This is the California marijuana market expected to be bigger than beer.
Bigger than beer.
Bigger than beer.
And Mumbo was saying there's a story about banks in California.
Banks in California. Mumbo will find that if it's on NBC right now. We'll find it for next week's show.
I didn't see it.
It is conversation that's happening here in California. The treasurer. Is this the treasurer?
Yeah, they probably do think they'll get a contact high, Sammy. You're right.
From the bush.
You have an inside scoop on that.
Not like they're burning it, right? I mean, I can see that they're burning it, but they're hazmat. But it's great. It's great for the screenplay.
It's totally great for our show.
Okay, so let's just watch this video about what it really means to California, or what they're projecting this to mean for California.
Yeah.
And then we'll end with where we weed and a nice little
Bigger
review
than
of a couple of that. Wiz Khalifa is actually pretty good.
The Wiz Khalifa is lovely.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
All right, let's do it.
Recreational cannabis sales began at the start of the new year in California, and the market is already expected to bring in billions in revenue this year. According to Business Insider, BDS Analytics estimates sales of marijuana to hit $3.7 billion by the end of 2018 alone, predicting by 2019 it'll increase to $5.1 billion as more dispensaries pop up. If California hits the projected number for 2019, that means the marijuana industry would bring in more revenue than the $5 billion the beer industry made in 2017, according to Ibis World. Although marijuana is still federally illegal, BDS estimates sales across the states where it's legal could hit $24.5 billion by 2021. Additionally, the price of cannabis in California is expected to go up 15% as California applies a new excise tax on recreational sales. An eighth of pot costs about $54 now and would approximately go up to $65 depending on the dispensary. The hike in price has some industry analysts concerned customers will turn to the black market to avoid extra fees.
And even a single cookie.
24 billion. It's going to be bigger than the NFL too.
I'm so glad.
Outselling alcohol.
Alcohol's lame and it makes you fat.
And guess what other industry sees that?
Alcohol.
Alcohol industry.
They're
Corona
super
beer,
bummed.
Corona beer company.
Oh, that's right. They're going to get in on the green, make green drinks. I think it's awesome. Great, bring it.
They see what's happening.
But don't mix it with alcohol.
We
Make
ask
it
for a cannabis
separated.
cocktail wherever we go now.
Yes, everywhere we
Just
go.
to put it out there.
Yep, I
'Cause
want
we don't
them to
drink.
know that
We don't
they're, yeah, I want them to know we are in the market for a cannabis cocktail when we go out. I don't drink alcohol. I'd like to party with other people. And if you don't have a cannabis cocktail, I'm drinking club soda.
Word.
So yeah. Okay, yeah, totally. If they tax it like that, people are definitely going to go black market Robin Hood.
Oh my God, they're adding another freaking 15%?
That's insane.
Is that what they said?
Arachnid Soul, you just got to ask around.
Well,
saying.
you know, you've heard of the opioid crisis? Arachnid Soul is having a cannabis crisis.
Yeah.
A cannabis
How come you
crisis-
don't know so many people?
A cannabis crisis is when
You need to get out more.
you don't have any weed and your guy is not around.
Yeah.
That's a cannabis crisis.
Yeah.
He's not answering his phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Arachnid Soul, we
Poor thing. I'm sorry. I don't
we,
mean to make fun.
We commiserate with you. We've been there. We've been there for most of our lives.
No. We haven't been out of weed for a really long time.
That's true.
Like a really long time. Sometimes we're out of weed. Well, we get low on weed. We're never out of weed, but we get low on weed. So.
Well, we are partaking in our civil act of civil
You're in
disobedience.
Vegas. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard.
Shouldn't be. Oh, you're in Vegas? Oh, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard. You can walk down the street.
You should. Unless you're in Henderson. Oh, no, now it's okay
No,
in
it's okay
Henderson.
in Henderson now.
They have stores.
I'm sure they might even have delivery services.
I think they do have
Did they
delivery
legalize
services.
that yet in Nevada?
Do they have a
Or
weed
is it-
maps? Yeah, they have a weed maps for there.
But let's talk about what we're weeding. Where?
Yes. Okay. Where we weed.
We reversed our show, and we're going to end our show today with Where We Weed.
Where we weed.
Every week, we try out or go back to a favorite dispensary. This week is our home collective.
Yes, a collective.
Where
medicine is really the story.
That's right. Where medicine is...
Medicine is the motivation.
Medicine is the motivation. That's very good. Medicine is the motivation.
Yeah, it's about medicine.
So...
Am I screwing you up by moving around
yeah,
so
would you
much?
just sit in one spot?
Sorry, it's hard. Okay, I'll try to
find
stay
a
right
spot
here.
for your demonstration.
Okay, here we go.
Are you
All right.
in your spot for your
I'm ready.
demonstration? Okay, stand by. Driving me crazy. I don't
Okay.
have cameraman. I have me with little boxes. I make little
know.
things with the boxes.
I'm sorry.
I need to hire
Okay,
cameraman.
okay.
Wait, hang on. And I have to make this. Okay,
Arachnid Soul,
okay.
are you new to Vegas? Because we have friends in Vegas. If you need help,
Yeah,
finding
drop us a
people.
DM. We'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we got there, babe?
All right, so we got two different kinds of flour. Tonight we're coming from ITSG. I have been struggling with some medical things with some friends and clients and loved ones. And so I'm looking for different oils, different tinctures, and I've been trying some FICO as well because I've been recommending the FICO to people. I wanted to try it.
And what is FICO? Yeah.
Full extraction cannabis oil made from organic cannabis, organically grown cannabis, and CO2 extracted, so there's no solvents involved. It's really important when you're medicating to not have solvents in your medicine. So you got to ask your providers what's going on with that and make sure that you're getting solvent-free medicine. So that is the case at ITSG, and that is one of the things that we love most about them. So here we go. We have a blend of FICO here that Dr. Fish recommends, and I've been using it for some weird mystery skin things. I've had basal cell carcinoma in 2 different spots and some precancers near my nose, and a new little spot came up near my nose, and I started using a little bit of this FICO at night, and the little spot seems to be getting smaller. So I started using it on a couple little spots on my leg, and they're getting smaller too, and it's pretty amazing. And I've been using a little grain of rice amount before bed because I'm having a muscle spasm issue in my neck, and it's been really resistant to acupuncture and chiropractor and massage. So I've been using a little FICO to help with the muscle relaxing and also sleeping on my back, because that's not something I'm natural at. So I got a new pillow and I'm using that. And last night I tried using THCA. So we have here a bottle of THCA from ITSG in a tincture form.
Now, I'm going to say this. THCA is one of the cannabinoids, the CBDs.
Yes,
No?
the CBDs.
Cannabinoids.
Cannabidiol, cannabinoids.
Yeah, CBDs is improper.
So, I'm using this because THCA is known to be particularly great for relaxing muscles and for sleeping. So, I tried a little last night. And, babe, how did I sleep last night?
Well, okay, so you've been sort of experimenting with the FICO a little bit at night.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have a new pillow.
I do.
But this was the last night was the first time you tried the THCA.
Yeah.
And you didn't do CBDN, right?
No.
You got another one too. What didn't you get? That
We
one?
also got CBDA.
CBDA,
which I was going to try on my mom.
Now both of these are, you get the A's, the THCA and the CBDA. You get them from more the raw plant, really, because it's not decarboxylated. When you decarboxylate your cannabis, which basically means smoking it,
heating it,
yeah, you destroy a lot of the A's, the THCA's, the acids.
Yes, it converts it.
CBDA
converts it.
Right. So your THCA is something, and CBDA is something you get more from like a raw plant.
Yeah, from the leaves, which I want to be able to use, and I'm going to be getting some of those, which I'm excited to show you guys also. But anyway, so I used it last night, but here's the big news from last night.
Yeah, well, let me just say this about is the big news the Ficoma you were in this morning?
No. The no hot flashes.
Ah! Good,
That's
interesting
the big
observation.
news.
That is true. You did not wake up once.
I did not have
I could barely
hot
get you out
flashes.
of the bed this morning.
I was so comfy in the bed.
You were
so
pretty
nice.
You were out there, boy.
It was nice.
You have the sleep of the dead going.
I never sleep in.
You don't.
And also the hot flashes.
That was pretty amazing.
But I didn't have hot flashes. That was amazing.
The bedside air conditioner did not go on once.
Not once. Not one
in the
time.
middle of the night.
Not one time.
Pretty impressed. I don't know if it's the FICO, which you did a pretty good sized grain of rice, an Indian-sized grain of rice.
Yeah, I like to do large grains.
Yeah, and
I do like a good half-inch grain.
So, but you've been upping that dose a little bit. So that might.
Well, I want to see what I'm recommending to people. So
do we know what's the percentage of THC in that?
I'm not sure. I'll find out.
The ITSG, is there an answer for that question? I don't know. It's full,
but also, let's talk about the wonderful flower that we've been trying tonight.
Oh, this Wiz Khalifa.
The
really
flower,
nice.
the Wiz Khalifa is super nice, and it's nice and chatty. Let's talk about the properties of Wiz Khalifa. Go ahead. Tell us more.
Okay, so...
Khalifa Kush.
Leafly, good source for your...
we love the Leafly. I like the graphics.
Khalifa Kush. What is Khalifa Kush?
Yes, long grain oats.
Khalifa Kush, or Wiz Khalifa OG, is a hybrid that was bred specifically for the rap artist Wiz Khalifa, who claims it is descended from an OG strain. The real Khalifa Kush is supposedly unavailable to the public, but those who have acquired strains under this name say the effects and aroma are similar to that of OG Kush, sour lemon, and pine with an active cerebral buzz.
Cerebral.
Ideal for morning and daytime use.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, I like it. It's really lovely. That's nice. And we were smoking joints from Girl Scout Cookie. And what's Leafly got to say about Girl Scout Cookie? And that's this one over here.
Apollo Grown, GSC, and company GSC now, GSC, not Girl Scout.
Girl Scout Cookie, that's
it's
this.
Not, it's, sorry, we take it back. It is not Girl Scout Cookie. It is GSC. Because you can't call it Girl Scout Cookie. The Girl Scouts sued. Although now, you know what I think is really unfair? Because they are currently making lots of money out in front of dispensaries.
They might as well.
They're making tons of, talk about oppression. They sue people for using the strain name Girl Scout Cookies, but for copyright infringement or trademark infringement or whatever, and then they make a ton of money out in front of dispensaries, which is totally sanctioned by the Girl Scouts now.
It's just like any other business. It's legal in California, Colorado.
I call out to them, you should be in front of them in Bundlery. And on the side, you see them in front of Trader Joe's. Although that's pretty good spot too. So GSC, a little GSC in the joints today. That's always nice. Also a good Apollo Grown. It comes with everything a solid GSC should, from the sweet, pungent, earthy aroma to the super dense sticky buds.
It's very nice.
ITSG for all your wares today.
All good stuff, and I'm still, of course, loving the 5-2, and the Blue Dream is super creative. I love having access to all of these oils. Too. Yes. I love having access to all of these oils. I find them really, really great. And this time in the cannabis space is super exciting. And I'm glad it's a good time to be alive for this this part of the world. So
it is. We've got our challenges in this space with regards to folks that are trying to do medicinal work, like the collectives, like ITSG, who are basically being absorbed into this system.
Yeah, by Prop 64.
Yeah, they are forced to get, they have to get on board the licensing regime that has been prescribed now in this new law. And if they don't do it, they are gone. So they have a year to do it, though. The collectives have, they've got it's under a year now because the first license has been issued. Maybe not, it's the first temporary license temporary permits have been issued. No license actually has been issued. So the collective model in California is legal in the state's eyes anyway for a year after the first issuance of a license in California. So the collective model is they're gonna make the trend. The ones that can make the transition, the ones that can pay, that have the money. Some are being driven out of business already. Others that maybe the LA is certainly cracking down on the dispensary stores that are trying to be open to the public. They're on a rampage, shutting those places down that aren't in the permit process, aren't in that.
Maybe it's Jeff Sessions' hairy armpit. Give him a little of that so he can leave everybody else alone.
Right. Well, a lot of us believed this was going to happen. A lot of us thought that as soon as it was legalized, they were going to be lining up. We thought it was going to be the feds. The feds are obviously more interested in, as that DEA officer said, more interested in stuff that's going across state lines or going involved internationally.
Yeah, so don't, send stuff in the mail.
Until we can get it off the Schedule 1, it really is.
We got to get it off the Schedule 1, you guys. That's really important.
Come to California.
So write
and
notes.
Then drop it off at my house when you're done.
Yeah, write letters, write notes to your Congress members. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones that you use cannabis. Tell them why.
Tell them why.
And tell them about at DC420LA on all social media platforms.
Look at you promoting. I've sucked her in.
And
this
thank
whole
you,
on-camera
WeTV,
persona.
for our first time on your distribution network, I guess.
Very exciting.
Right?
Weed TV, and we're on. And say this is like the second week now. We're going out on D Live.
Yeah.
Through Steam It fans, because them tube is going to end up shutting us off.
Yeah,
at
them
some point.
tube. We're gonna get
They're shutting
thrown
down.
out of here soon.
It's not just the alt right and the progressive voices that are being shut down.
Yeah.
The weed tubers are being shut down too.
Yeah.
Because guess what? We are doing an act of civil disobedience by smoking cannabis on
Tell your
on
grandparents about us.
So,
Tell them all.
and YouTube is, they're getting antsy over this whole Russia thing, and it's just they're overreacting as the corporations always do, as most people and politicians do. We will be here. We will continue on. Even if YouTube decides to give us the boot.
Yeah, keep looking for us.
We're going to be out
still
there.
around.
Because Facebook might do that too. But we'll be on D Live. We can still go out to Weed TV unless they shut them down. Who knows? We'll see what's going on.
Keep looking for us.
It's gonna be tough for these guys. It'd be interesting to see if the feds came in like full guns blazing in California with this as soon as we see the first check. As soon as we cash. As soon as they see the first cash deposit in the numbers after the first quarter, we'll see. But this has been DC 420 LA. You can find us on all the social platforms, as the C in DC said, Chella, over there on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where you can see photos of Oscar and Boo Boo. We update the pet pictures over there on Instagram. And, of course, going out live now on DLive, Weed.tv, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. Subscribe, get notifications. On Steam It, to do a thumbs up. I don't know.
Resubscribe, because it looks like a couple people didn't get notifications today. They were saying they got unsubscribed.
Okay, and I must have I'm going to apologize again. YouTube is, there's all these new streaming situations happening on YouTube. I think I'm going out over 2 different streams on the same channel right now.
Oy, oy.
So if we missed anybody in the chat, we apologize, and I'm going to try to figure that out. There's a common stream key thing that is the problem I think I need to work out. But we're trying to get this message out. We're trying to mainstream cannabis use. When you recreate, you medicate. There's drunk history, folks, on TV. We need to have cannabis as a mainstream normalized use across the board for medicine and for recreation. People. Never killed anybody.
Nope.
And
you know what, Mumbo? My parents told me that they used cannabis, and I didn't use cannabis until I was out of college, really.
Very good point.
I didn't use. And I'm a totally functioning, mostly functioning. Anyway, let's not talk about me. Everybody, thank you so much for everything, and thank you, Dave. And,
thank you, baby. We're gonna watch a replay of the Oscars now and see if Allison won.
Yeah, of course she won.
Of course she won. Oh, I hope she won.
Of course she won.
Okay. Did you find out?
No.
Oh, okay.
Shh, go on. Let's go.
All right, we're out of here, folks.
Bye, everybody.
Pause for peace. We'll see you next week at 420 Pacific at DC 420 LA. We love y'all.
Okay.
And the music we play, of course, is The Toys.
Yay, The Toys.
Hey, Uncle Sam. Leave us pot smokers alone. We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye, Jocelyn. Bye, Sammy. Bye, Robin Hood.
Thanks, Pat. We'll talk to you soon. PatHarrisForSenate.com, folks. Look him up. Check out our thing. I'm going to cut it up and put it up. But great interview. I think he's the real deal. So we'll see you next week, everybody.
Good night. Night, Casey.
Murderers keep murdering, the churches keep a-burning, the rapists keep a-raping, and the tide ain't turning. Uncle Sam, for all your power, things get worse every hour. It seems to me your energy's unwasted, chasing my friends and me. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam. terrorizing. Our leaders keep a lying. The haters keep a hating. And the planet's dying. Uncle Sam, do what's proper. Call off your dogs and your helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone, Uncle Sam. Leave us pot smokers alone. How many innocent people gonna be imprisoned? We just peace and love and street puff and brotherhood freaks. A touch of Mother Nature never made nobody violent, never made nobody hate nobody or break nobody's peace. Since we've never been shown to be harmful, don't you tell me no lies with your caffeine.